14 hours to go before the much anticipated start of the elections. A very good afternoon to you. It's just gone 12 o'clock midday. It's good to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks. Coming live to you from the IEC Centre. A bit of activity this afternoon. Less than a few minutes ago, the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters out on the floor here inspecting the results centre. Quite a stir. We've had a bit of quite a few days at the centre over the last 2 days since Monday. But Julius Malema out being shown the ropes and being shown what the operations are like here at the centre by IEC officials. And I believe that the EFF leader is still on the rounds at the moment and still taking a look at what operations are likely to unfold here at the centre over tomorrow.
Well, the IEC has said that it's been a largely smooth process so far. As we know, special voting started yesterday and continues today. But first, let's get into our top story at the moment.
Yeah, we move straight into one of the high-risk areas identified in this election, Vuwani in Limpopo, which has been embroiled in an often violent demarcation dispute. The Independent Electoral Commission saying it decided not to open polling stations there yesterday because only a few people applied to vote outside of election day. Well, our reporter Mike Maringa is there. Let's try and cross over to him in Limpopo. Mike, good afternoon. So reports earlier today so far telling us that there was hardly any activity with regards to special voting yesterday and today. Well, yesterday closed. But give us a sense of what happened when those stations actually opened for the first time today.
Afternoon, David. Yes, you're coming to us live from Vuwani, the village called Chubulane. I can safely say that these polling stations are now open. But the one that I'm standing in front of here, there are two ladies, the presiding officers who were here as early as 7 o'clock in the morning. I can tell you that they have been waiting for the gates to be opened. No one came to assist them. And I must also indicate as well that they have not seen or registered a single voter today. No one came to cast their vote here. This was the same situation at the municipal offices, not far from here. It's a stone throw away distance where we experienced the very same thing where the gates of the municipality offices were closed. The IEC officials were waiting outside, waiting for whoever who's got the keys to come and open. But on our way here, when we were coming to set up for this interview, we realized that that particular station was open. Remember, Devin, we've got about 32 special voters that are registered in this vicinity, the Vuwani area, and none of them have casted their votes so far. So we don't know what will happen because these stations are expected to close at 5 o'clock, but IEC officials are idling. They've got nothing to do here, Devin.
Police Commissioner Komotso Pahlane, Mike, has given us assurances that police are ready for any possible threatening disruptions in that area. Do you get a sense that police appear to be prepared for that possibility, Mike?
Look, that assurity, it's given. Let me tell you that there are over 1,000 police officers who have been deployed here. In this polling station alone, there are about 4 police officers who are monitoring the area. We have seen them in the morning in their hundreds when they came for their shift. There's one area or place called Feyebuam. It's a very notorious area where they have, in the past, they dug trenches to prohibit police from getting into that area, but I can tell you now that that place is open. Police have taken over that area. So in terms of police visibility, they are here in numbers. They have taken control. That assurity is there. Those who want to vote can go and vote if that's what the communities have agreed upon. But there is a reluctance today because we have not seen anyone, and we are not sure if what we are seeing today is a tone setter of what we're expecting to see tomorrow, Devin.
A very significant question, Mike. You look at the, if you want to call it apathy or people staying indoors, and you try and measure what might happen come tomorrow. Do you get a sense that you will still see people coming out in numbers to cast their ballot when eventually the main gates open for tomorrow's voting?
Look, In the past, you couldn't see a single person moving around the streets of Vuwani, but the situation is getting better. Maybe it's because of the police visibility. There are people who are roaming the streets now, but still they don't want to talk to the media. They rather keep to themselves as to whether they'll be voting or not. On the other side of the road, we still have party agents, party members who are driving around in branded cars, trying to convince people to come and vote. And also, I can also indicate that this area, it was difficult for police, for political parties to come and canvass. But we have seen there are boards. It's mostly EFF, it's DA, it's ANC. There are placards that are all over. Maybe the last round of trying to convince people to come and vote might work, looking at the number of people who are trying to convince people to push them to go into the polls tomorrow. We are likely to see a different picture if they win on that one, Devon.
Well, thanks very much indeed, Mike Maringa there in an identified hotspot in Vuwani there, talking to us live from Limpopo. Of course, that area is seeing demarcation disputes. We'll try and get further details from him later on in the afternoon as the election coverage continues.
Well, another hotspot that's being monitored is Marikana in the northwest. Contentious issues around housing in Rustenburg's mining community is just one of the issues that residents are grappling with. They face a lack of basic services, and the area has often been an epicenter of tension. Our reporter Selo Tatai has been monitoring events for us in Marikana, and he joins us now live from there. Selo, a very good afternoon to you. It's just a few hours before special votes close. Give us an update on voting today. Has there been a big turnout?
Well, special votes are in full swing here, Natasha, at Marikana, which has been identified as one of the hotspots in the Northwest Province. The process is fairly slow. One might attribute that to the violence that we saw last week. 38 people who were arrested for public violence were given bail yesterday by the Rustenburg Magistrate Court. But the issue in contention here is that as we were doing a walk around monitoring how the special votes are going, people were telling us that there is a lack of police visibility here at Marikana. And given what has happened in previous occasions, if there is going to be any violence that might erupt here, police won't be able to move swift to arrest the situation. That is what they are telling us. But as far as things are standing now, each and everything is running smoothly, but you'll never know what might happen given the past experience here.
All right, Selo, as you say, given past experiences over the past few years, that area has been an epicenter of violence and political tension. To what extent do you think that has influenced the voting mentality this time around?
Well, as you correctly point out, Natasha, Marikana since 2012 has been a fiercely contested political terrain, and this is informed by the successive industrial action and disputes that we have seen playing themselves out in 2012 and 2014 ahead of the general and provincial elections. And this is critical here because we have seen political parties like the UDM and EFF making inroads here, making promises, galvanizing support ahead of this year's local government elections. But the ANC, on the other hand, is saying that they are not swayed about those particular developments. In fact, they've got a comprehensive plan and Vision 2030, which is aimed at diversifying this region's economy, particularly looking at mineral beneficiation. And they're also talking about an innovation hub and a skills center, which to a large extent is going to contribute in diversifying this municipality's economy, because it has suffered enormously given the external shocks as informed by the global political economy when one looks at the prices of platinum, which have recently plummeted.
All right, and Selo, let's take a look at some of the other issues facing people there. The issue of housing being one of them, which has been a talking point ahead of these elections. Why is that?
Well, housing is one of the contentious issues here in Rustenburg. We are talking about a population of over 500 residents residing here at Rustenburg Local Municipality. 160,000 residents live in informal settlements, and that has had a very huge negative impact on how the municipality is grappling with this issue of housing. Compounding this problem is pull and push factors, where we have seen people from the Eastern Cape particularly coming here into this area in search of economic opportunities. And also one cannot exclude economic migrants from the SADC countries who come here in Rustenburg in search of economic opportunities that have compounded the issue of housing. And also mining companies have been criticized for not playing their part in terms of allocating proper accommodation for their workers, including residents here, when one looks at their corporate social investment. But Lonmin has committed over 500 million in a period of 5 years to address that particular challenge.
All right, Selo, thank you very much. We'll have to leave it there. Our reporter Selo Tatai coming to us live from Marikana in the northwest. But here at the IEC Centre, EFF leader Julius Malema is briefing the media fresh out of that massive rally in Limpopo. So we have seen him arrive today.
All right, so this is the press conference currently underway.
We therefore thank all the EFF ground forces for standing the test of time, driven only by their faith in the mission for economic freedom in our lifetime. Above, the capitalist greed demonstrated by the conscious expenditure of the DA and the ANC, the EFF campaign was met with violence. We have lost 2 members to electoral violent confrontation in Tembisa when a no-go area was declared in Sethuga Hostel. Our community meetings were violently disrupted in front of the whole world and in the presence of the media, in particular in Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal. In Polokwane, our female member was shot whilst campaigning at the taxi rank. In addition, there was a sustained effort to remove EFF posters, particularly in Gauteng, which was also joined by the Johannesburg Metro Police, who unashamedly removed EFF campaign material. In small white-dominated towns like Newcastle and Vryburg, and angry, small-minded, racist white people removed our posters whilst threatening the lives of our ground forces. This is despite the fact that in only 3 years of our existence, the EFF has demonstrated massive internal democracy. None of the branch meetings degenerated into fights that led to any drop of blood. Moreover, all the branches that set to nominate councillors candidates were EFF branches in good standing with actual paid-up membership. The local government election was test for our strength and our organizational strength, internal democracy, and the commitment to our revolutionary mission. These branches never returned fire or disruption and violence that they were subjected to through the campaign. We thank them for the discipline, for demonstrating to the world that in a democracy you invest of the power of your argument and not how violent and bully and greedy you can be. The EFF was also the test for electoral code of conduct, which for the first time was used to remove a candidate from the elections. Whilst we welcome the Electoral Court's decision to remove our candidate in Ward 7 of Atteridgeville, Tshwane Metro, it is worrying that the IEC never acted with the same speed and precision on our complaints. The IEC must be ashamed that despite all the written and verbal complaints we have given to them about direct violation of EFF rights to freedom of assembly, we reiterate that the only reason why the IEC has dealt with the Ward 7 candidate of the EFF is because it involved a threat to white life and a white person against a black candidate. Finally, regardless of all these factors, we wish all political parties well on the 3rd of August 2016. We call on all to be tolerant and let us indeed have a peaceful, free and fair election. We call on presiding officers to be fair, and always use the IEC rules book to take actions about whatever problems they face. We call on voters to know their vote is a secret and they must not be intimidated. And they must come out in their numbers to vote for the EFF, knowing it is the last hope for jobs and service delivery. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm going to attempt the first round. 1, 2, 3. In that order, number 1.
Thank you very much. Kunita Hanti from Sunday Times. Mr. Malema, at your Orlando address that you gave at the launch of your manifesto, you raised some concern about the IEC, and you gave numerous warnings to the IEC, and you've also said a lot about Glenn Mashinini, the IEC chairperson. From your interactions with them today, what is your impressions now? Are they capable to deliver free and fair election?
Well, we have never doubted the integrity and the capacity of the IEC to deliver free and fair elections. All we're doing was to warn them that there shouldn't be a role player in these elections. They must be neutral and they must continue to do what they are known for. We're particularly worried about the appointment of the new chairperson of the IEC because of his proximity to President Zuma. And the IEC has reassured us in the meeting with them that they are above individual interest. They are an institution, and therefore they don't think that the institutional mechanisms put in place can actually be undone by an individual in the name of Mashinini. And that reassurance was necessary, and we hope that they will live up to the expectations. This is a highly contested local government elections. It has never happened before. The IEC has confessed itself that the interest is massive, and we hope that they too will know that they are being watched from all over the world, and they must do the right thing.
ENCA?
I don't know who made that allegation. Yeah, yeah, but you cannot expect me to answer some bogus Twitter branches, which I don't know who tweets such things. You see, we end up responding to non-existing allegations, man. The ANC didn't meet President Mbeki. There were 3 mayors who were expected to show up, and only Parks went. And as to why Parks went, I don't know. He's going for the second time. So I don't know if he didn't get what he was looking for in the first meeting, and he had to go for the second time and the third time. And why would you need an endorsement from your member? Because your member, you should ordinarily know that he will vote for you. He's endorsing you. They said Mbeki is their member. Mbeki himself issued a statement saying he's an ANC member. Imagine me asking Mbuiseni to go home at Orange Farm and announcing that I'm going to be visiting Mbuiseni at his home. That is stupidity, man. That's lack of thinking. They've run out of ideas. We're killing them. We set in the agenda, they come after us because we are young people full of energy, full of ideas. We are led by intellectuals and not people who survive through some struggle credentials, but thinking dololo. So we don't rely on some history and institutional memory. We're relying on thinking now. What is good, what is not good. They can do whatever they want to do. We've made our point yesterday. There's no point to be made today. Tomorrow there are no newspapers. The reality is that it's a holiday tomorrow. And a lot of people don't read papers on a holiday. So they agreed to go see Mbeki, and then they backtracked because somebody said to them, but you are going to be seen to be following the EFF. and there's some assaulted. It's an organization in a crisis. Others pulled out, and then one of them went. Why? The center is not holding. There is no point where instruction is given and everybody else expected to carry such an instruction. The ANC was known for something called Mkombandle. Every time they give direction, members will fall. So today, others went, others didn't go. Why? It's a sign of a crisis, an organization in a crisis. And we are not in a crisis. We are running a campaign. We're not following anyone. Look at what we did. When you were following, people were unveiling posters, poster after a poster here in Joburg. We were on the ground with communities in the rural areas. South Africa, we have a big problem. Not only of government, but also of a lazy South African media, which only goes to accessible places. You don't go to rural areas, you don't go to township, you don't go to towns outside Cape Town, Johannesburg, PE, and Durban. That's where you cover. And you are contributing in a way, wittingly or unwittingly, to the situation where the rural mass is neglected by politicians. Why? Because there is no coverage. Politicians go where there is coverage. I mean, there was a headline that Malema is no longer in the media. Malema is not a media darling. Why? Because Malema is campaigning in the rural areas. Malema is campaigning in the areas that are not easily accessible. Media is following Musimaimani. How can unveiling a poster be news? Come on, South African media. How can unveiling a banner be news? The news should be that politicians are reaching the areas that we did not even know as the media. Politicians are addressing more than 10 meetings per day, and then challenge them that when you are in power, we challenge you to do the same. When you do the same thing you are doing during elections. You can't challenge me because you don't know what I was doing during elections. So we are happy that we ran a clean campaign and we were setting trends, we're breaking new ground. We ran a national campaign, not Tshwane, Joburg, PE campaign. Because we are a true national organization. We are not media-run organization. We are not Ipsos-run organization. We are an organization that appreciates that South Africa is bigger than PE, Johannesburg, and Tshwane.
Leicester.
Given how closely contested these local elections are, would the EFF ever consider a coalition with the DA in any of the metropolitan municipalities?
Well, we said repeatedly we'll work with everyone who is prepared to expropriate the land without compensation. But equally, that type of a relationship is going to be annual, based on a program of action. What are we doing today, this year, and for which areas? It must be program-driven. If we agree we're going to put the roads in Hammanskraal, in a coalition in Tshwane, it has to be like that. And if we fail to put roads as agreed in Tshwane, then we're going to pull out of such a relationship. It means it's not working. It has to be a working relationship based on a program of action, tangible things that can be seen by our people. The people can touch them, but say, this is what our government have done. But equally, we want to change the method of budgeting in the municipalities. Every budget, when it's passed, it has to outline what will this what number one, benefit out of this budget this year. Because people are just told there is a budget of the roads, so much billions, budget for houses, so much billions, but where I'm staying, what's going to happen this year? What am I going to eat from this budget this year, where I'm staying? So the budget must reflect the realities of our people, and every area must be reflected in that budget every year when it's passed. If that coalition or that municipality is run by the EFF.
You said you'd work with anyone. Does that include the ANC?
No, not the ANC. You know, if the ANC gets less than 50%, you are a ruling party. If you get less than 50%, it's a motion of no confidence. So what it means is that the people are whispering that they are not happy with the ruling party. And that is a loud whispering. So we cannot bring the ANC through a back door, undermining the will of the people. So we are not going to be part of undermining the will of the people. So when people say ANC get less than 50%, they're effectively saying to us, we need a different type of government in this area, and we must respond accordingly.
Okay, let's attempt the last round. New hands. Last round, new hands.
There are no new hands. Journalists are tired.
One. Going once, two. Going once, twice, done. One.
Okay, two questions. Your party agents, do you have party agents in every voting station, and how are you coordinating and managing that? And secondly, just in terms of what you said about managing coalitions monthly, but coalition governments are usually 5-year relationships. I didn't say monthly.
You see,
I said annually.
Yes, you are distorting me immediately. I can imagine what's going to happen in the paper if you imagine you distort me immediately. Well, there is no regulation or law that governs coalitions. So you can't say when we get into a coalition relationship, then we are going to be in it for 5 years. I'm telling you what we will do. And if it's not going to work for anyone, then go on and do your own thing. So we are engaged in an annual type of a relationship which ought to be reviewed every year to check if it's working. If it's not working, we're pulling out of it. We're not going to make our people suffer for 5 years because we are in some alliance which is not working for the whole 5 years. It ought to be reviewed every 5 years. Every year, annually. The last one is the issue of party agents. The good thing with local government election is that you've got candidates every ward. So it is the responsibility of the candidate to make sure that they are party agents. So if EFF structures are lazy, take your husband to be a party agent and look after your vote. Take your wife to go look after your vote. Take your children to go look after your vote. So out of 4,200 and something wards we are contesting, we've got well-trained party agents. We've got, firstly, candidates who know that they must have party agents. They've all submitted the party agents. The branches have submitted the party agents. The party agents have been trained. And the party agents must be trusted by the party first and the party agent second. So if there is any doubt by the party, by the candidate on a party agent, the candidate is having a right to say, I don't think this party agent can be trusted. We must remove that person and then put a different person. Why? The ANC is buying, it's not playing now. They've got money all over. Now what they do, because I still have got some friends of mine in the ANC, they buy party agents not to change the results. They give the party agent money to go home. And our people are struggling. So they give them 5,000, go home. And then he goes home, and then they remain with their own biased IEC staff. And then they manipulate the whole thing. And you can't even lodge a complaint because your party agent disappeared. He was bought 2,500 rand. And who does that? The candidates of the ANC themselves. Because they are desperately wanting to win. Because firstly, it's jobs for them. but secondly is the key to resources. So that's why they are prepared to spend even their pension funds buying votes and buying party agents of opposition parties to disappear in the voting stations. So we've got trusted forces at the voting station as party agents.
Last question.
By the EFF leader Julius Malema. He's been on a walkabout here at the IEC Centre in Pretoria. Just briefly summarising what he had to say, the issue of coalitions came up with the EFF leader. He says he will only get into a coalition if it is program-driven and if it is a working relationship that is renewed annually. So he was pretty much explanatory on the issue of coalitions. And then, of course, the EFF leader also talking about the economic freedom fighter stance with regards to violence in this election. He says his party has been the recipient of violence and disturbances, yet they haven't had that posture against those who meted out those disturbances against them. He's also here at the IEC saying that he's never doubted the Independent Electoral Commission. He says that all they did was warn them that they have to conduct this exercise in a neutral manner. Well, a break now. When we come back, some more election insight.
Mr. President, thank you for choosing the moon.
Oh, this view is magnificent. This has to be the proudest day of our lives.
Not hungry, huh?
Is he eating?
Nope.
Okay, Commander. Come with me.
Roger, 10-second countdown. Eagle looking great, you're down. Roger, looks great, Houston.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. You have liftoff.
It's Macro's 45th Big Birthday Bash, and our gift to you is big savings. Get the Samsung 55-inch Smart SUHD TV for only 16,999, save 5,000 Rand. Or the Russell Hobbs Stainless Steel Food Processor, only 899, save 700 Rand. And save 500 Rand on the Tefal 7-piece non-stick cookware set, now only 999. Get these and many other great deals in-store and online with Macro's Big Birthday Bash. Macro, big on life.
Special voting wraps up this afternoon ahead of the main election day tomorrow. Let's get some insight now on the build-up to that big day tomorrow. Joining me, Busisiwe Kaba, political science lecturer at Monash, South Africa. Busisiwe, thanks indeed for coming to us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so this vote essentially is about electing councillors who will be responsible for your immediate area. And I suppose it's a way to actually hold authorities accountable for the matters that relate to you directly on the ground. Now, I suppose the question then would be, when we look at the thinking of the voter in this election compared to a national election, what's the psychology here as they approach the ballot box?
I suppose, it's one of the biggest elections we are having. It's the mostly contested, and also given the numbers compared to the previous local government elections where we have about 3 million increase in voter registration. So that is significant. That is good. Our democracy is maturing, and that is a positive thing. I also suppose for an individual and for communities, as local government is the closest to the people, and it's the first point of entry. And also perhaps one could suggest that local government is the one mostly responsible for delivering the services of government and, taking out the manifesto from national government. It also resonates with individuals because we've seen an increase in candidates, in the independent candidates. So I suppose communities know that these elections are important and it is about them. There's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of build-up towards these elections, so it's very interesting.
Now, again, when you make the comparisons and you look at what political parties do ahead of an election like this, it's not just about pushing the ideology of a party, which you will see in the national elections, but there has to be this sort of tangible measurement of what's been done. Looking at the build-up to tomorrow, do you think that campaigning was convincing or not?
Campaigning in this particular election was very peculiar in the sense that it became about who filled up the stadium more, and also it took a national tone. It was less directed at the local government, but there was a lot of national interference, if I would like to use that word. And also, with Leslie, it spoke about the real issues pertaining to delivery of services. It circulated on issues that are happening nationally, with especially the governing party, the ANC. There was a lot of attack on opposition parties, which I think were at an increase now. Also getting very personal with these attacks. It went beyond the politics. So that was really surprising for me. The tune was different, the tone was different, and I think that there's realization that the ANC has to prove itself as a governing party. These elections will test their durability as a governing party and also test the strength of opposition parties, because now they have to prove themselves. And are they really genuinely an option for the local people, for locals?
So you reckon that the national tune still filtered in, despite the fact that this is really about the ground roots level governing of a particular area? Well, in that regard, we saw Julius Malema here giving a press conference just seconds ago at the IEC Centre. I mean, he's pushed that sentiment again about what his party will do at ground level. It's difficult with a party like the EFF. This is their first municipal election. The tangible measure of what they can do at that level isn't there, is it? Yes,
that is correct. With the other political parties, we have sort of like a track record that we can measure and judge in terms of their delivery and test against what they had promised initially and how much have they achieved. Now, the political landscape has changed. There's a new political party, the EFF, and this will be the first time that EFF contests the local government elections. And, it's more of promises. We don't have a track record to say EFF has indeed delivered, so we'll have to wait for probably the next elections to see how they have delivered and how they've actually kept their promises, and also then we'll be able to judge in terms of what they could have achieved or not. It's easier perhaps if you are new to make certain promises. It spoke a lot, even with this manifesto, the EFF on Sunday, they spoke a lot about how they'll increase grants, for instance, like with the grants for pensioners from about 1.2 to 3,000. I mean, that's a very serious promise. And how will is that feasible? Is that attainable? As government, even if it does win, will they be able to really deliver on those promises? There was a lot of promises which maybe have not been well thought through in terms of feasibility and financial availability.
Let's just talk about the remarks Julius Malema made a few minutes ago about the whole issue of coalitions, saying that yes, coalitions would be possible, has to be program driven, and it has to have some sort of a duration limit. Yeah, he's put forward 1 year. If it doesn't work, they pull out. What do you make of it?
I think like 1 year is a short space of time. It may also suggest that you some sort of instability, you know, the continuous change. If 1 year EFF goes into a coalition with, say for DA, for instance, and then after a year they change, you know, it creates a sort of instability within the party. That's just my opinion. And in terms of administration and service delivery, what impact will that then have if you change your coalition parties after a year? And also in terms of decision making and policy making, it will make it a bit complicated, and perhaps the process may also take longer, you know, because now there's the maybe if a party doesn't win outright the 50+1 that is required. EFF is very certain on one thing. They keep reiterating it, that they will not go into a coalition with the ANC. So we'll wait and see.
We'll have to leave it there. Professor Kaba from Monash University, or Monash, South Africa rather, thanks very much indeed for your insight.
Thank you.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is just revisit your typical voting station to get a sense of how the voting process unfolds in a voting station. And it's important for a reason of actually knowing what you are likely to face when you walk into a station and go through the various stages of actually getting your thumb printed and walking out of the station after sipping in your ballot paper into the ballot box. So this is what the scene would look like. At the door, you have your election official checking up your ID. At the door, another election official uses a device, a zip device that it is known, zips your ID, and you make your way through the voter's roll. You hand over a piece of paper that was given to you and ticked off. From there, it's the famous thumbprint that you get on your left thumb. And head down onto your ink and proceed down to the next part of this process, number 5, indicating the ballot papers that are issued to you. Now, if you are in a metropolitan area, you get 2 ballot papers, one for choosing your party, the other for choosing your ward representative. If you're outside the metropolitan, you get a district ballot paper as well. All right, so from there, you move along to your actual voting booths, and at the voting booths, you make your mark, of course, and then proceed through the ballot provision, or actually the provincial ballot box and then the national ballot box, and then of course you make your way outside. This pretty much is guarded by what you find here. You see party agents around and your observer. That pretty much wraps up what you can see at your voting station.
All right, well, the local government elections have been described as one of the most important elections in South Africa to date, and it seems that it's a record on a number of fronts. So the Independent Electoral Commission saying that there's a 65% increase in the number of parties contesting since 2011. Some 61,000 candidates are vying for your cross next to their face on the ballot paper. So here's a quick look at how local government elections work for voters and what they should be expecting.
What do you want from your local government?
Daar's baie mense wat geen slaapplek het nie. Daar's genoeg grond. Maak dit beskikbaar aan ons gemeenskap. Dis nie nodig dat van ons mense en so aan moet in hokke slaap nie. As hulle kommunikeer saam met die gemeenskap, sal daar 'n oplossing kom vir dit.
Dit gaan alles oor diensneming wat 'n werklikheid moet word in die gemeenskappe in, want die afgelope paar jare nou al sien ek niks verandering. Daar's verskillende klomp plekke waar nog steeds grondpaaie is in die rural areas, om so te sê. Daar is verskriklike lewenskondisies wat die mense in nog moet lewe. Hokke en sulke goed, daar is nie eens behuising vir sekere mense nie, en ja, hoekom moet die mense dan in sulke turmoil tye nog in lewe?
Some areas where there are informal settlement, there is no running water, no toilets, no electricity, and even the roads in some areas are terrible.
Hulle moet in alle tye hulle se samewerking gee, of dit nou stemtyd is en of dit nou nie stemtyd is nie. Hulle moet nie net stemtye hier na ons toe kom nie. Hulle moet, en hulle sal goed wat hulle gesê hulle sal doen, moet hulle asseblief dit ook doen.
By law, the role of municipal governments, be it metros, district or local municipalities, is to provide you with a number of basic services. These range from water to electricity to infrastructure. Local government also has a critical role to play in the provision of housing. The people citizens turn to for these services are the councillors, the people you vote for to become the political figures who oversee the administration of local government.
People's real interaction with government is through local government, is through their councillor, because they don't have a person that they can turn to in the provincial legislature or the national legislature. They're only elected on a list system. And here you have actual councillor in a ward that you can ask to account what they are doing for you within the scope of what municipalities must do.
Compared to national and provincial governments, municipalities are unique.
And it's because, ideally, because they are geographically bound, they should be more accessible to people, and citizens should be able to access government services more directly and to be able to point out instances in which services aren't being rendered more immediately and get a more immediate response from municipalities versus national and provincial departments.
Another role of a municipality is to promote social and economic development. Every election year, job creation is at the very top of everyone's wish list. The country's high unemployment rate is a sore point for many.
Anti-stem, volgende maand. Stem? Ek het nie meer lus vir stem nie. Kom nie. Because by die goede bly net soos hulle is daar. As die onze kinders hier die werkie, as die werk uitkom, dan is het net in die boekkant. Onze kinders worden achterna en as hulle aanzoek doen, daar weet ek nie wat word van hulle se aansoeke nie.
Some folk are certain about their choice for the 3rd of August.
Dit is 'n geleentheid wat ons alle jare nie kon kry nie. Maar as ek dink wat my ouers vir my gesê het dat hulle wou ook graag gesê gehad in die regering, maar daardie tyd kon hulle nie. So met na 1994 het ons die geleentheid gekry. Hoekom kan mense dit gebruik nie? Ek gaan my keusie maak definitief en ek het my party vir wie ek gaan stem.
Others still need to think about it.
Dit is seker maar belangrik, maar aan die een kant voel ek in te stem want ek kan nie sien dat hulle kom en dan maak hulle beloftes en hulle kom met die na nie. So stem dit sien nie vir hulle. Daar kom beloof hulle ons gaan vir hulle huise bou, ons gaan vir hulle paaie bou.
If a municipality fails its constituency completely and is unable to perform its function adequately, provincial government may intervene. Directives can be sent to municipalities, ordering them to comply with certain provisions. If this doesn't happen, and there is in fact a serious breakdown in governance, the province may step into the shoes of the municipalities and perform its functions. And that is why it's so crucial to vote for the right person to represent you.
It establishes, of course, accountable local government, but also it establishes our democratic regime, because it's here that people apply their democratic rights. They can make sure that their votes count. But also it's important that we establish multi-party democracy. At national level, there's only winners and losers. Here, at sub-national level, at local government in particular, we see much more differentiations in terms of different parties controlling municipalities. And that establishes a culture of tolerance at local government level, which is critical for establishing that at a national level as well.
It's the first election where there's a tremendous degree of concern, contestation on the ground about how municipalities have performed. We first saw this in about 2009, where the national government came out with a couple of reports which admitted that municipalities were failing in many areas. Corruption was a major problem. Financial management was poor. although we see some improvement with the audits over the last few years. So the level of contestation on the ground suggests that this municipal elections, the outcomes, and certainly any idea of safe municipalities for political parties, is that is not as certain and is not as clear as it was in previous elections. There's a lot more to contest on the ground.
More than 26 million voters are registered to go to the polls on the 3rd of August to make their mark. And on that day, the power will be in the hand of the voter to decide who and what they want for their area. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Cape Town.
Well, we are live at the IEC in Pretoria, and it's certainly been a busy morning here. We've had Julius Malema walking around the IEC Centre, and of course we will have more for you at the top of the hour, more from the IEC Centre here, but we're going to take you back to our Johannesburg studios.
Technology is changing the way we live our lives, like how people on the continent use mobile money to pay for many goods.
It's good because it has helped me save.
And Africans are now developing new online content.
Cameroonians would ask us on social media when the game would come out.
On Network, we tell you about Africa's technology and social media landscape. That's Network with Ms. Phumelele Zondi every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
Now this is Trends, of course, your one-stop serving of all that's juicy and trending in the world of entertainment and showbiz. My name, of course, is Refiel Wemwilo.
I'm Dr. Salom Daung, and this is our talk.
A very good morning and welcome to Media Monitor. I'm your host, Alicia Jolly.
My name is Dumile Matez.
William Mulebati.
My name is Mpo Sedu. What time is it? It's question time.
For your daily dose of current affairs, tune in to the SABC News.
South Africa is renowned for producing artists of the highest caliber who are inspired by our country and all its diversity.
The work you see behind me is a work by Isaac Kanyele. He's a Durban-based artist who won the Absa Atelier in 1996. He's currently, besides a practicing artist, a lecturer at Durban University of Technology. Now, what makes Isaac's work so unique is that he is working very much more with traditional items. So if you look at the work that you see behind me, he's working with beadwork, he's working with ceramics, items that we often associate very much more within craft and not within contemporary artworks. So he's taken these traditional works and he's brought them into a contemporary space. Now the particular work behind me is Ampande, which means the roots. It's basically chapters, but chapters of a book that he's now put into a visual representation. This particular work forms part of a larger series of chapters where behind we've got only 3 sets of the chapters. He's looking at one himself, looking at his identity, but also looking at things from a cultural significance, historical significance within South Africa. So the first chapter, if we look at that particular work, deals with his culture as a Zulu male. The second looks at more from a historic perspective as an African person within South Africa. And the third one deals very much more with the political journey during apartheid until our democracy 21 years back. The works, the color, he's been very much more consistent in using, you'll see the repetition of color through the works. The color is not really symbolic from a political perspective or anything like that. But if we really think of African culture, we think of craft, it is often associated with bright colors that come through, particularly if we also think of the Ndebele and so on. So what he's done, he's brought a lot of that cultural significance and those bright colors into his work as well. The second work by Isaac on this particular exhibition, where we're looking back over the 30 years of the Absolutely Art Competition, is this one that is loosely translated as Zulu culture. But what it really is, it symbolizes, as we can see, from a Zulu kraal, the entrance in, with the back part being the entrance into the actual Zulu hut. Again, he's brought in very much more traditional media, where the previous work was very much more ceramic and beadwork. This is bringing very much more grass and the weaving of grass. Also, again, what is associated with more craft work. The mat at the bottom is again the straw mat with beaded work on it, and then as there are ceramic buttons and that on the actual archway. So he's now again brought what we can term as craft items and materials into contemporary reading and contemporary artwork.
According to the World Health Organization, the number of people who are obese doubled between 1980 and 2008. Furthermore, 35% of adults over the age of 20 are obese. More than 2 in 3 adults are considered to be overweight or obese. More than 1 in 3 adults are considered to be obese. More than 1 in 20 adults are considered to have extreme obesity. Furthermore, 35% of adults over the age of 20 are obese. In 2010, overweight and obesity were estimated to cause 3.4 million deaths, Lancet reports in 2013. South Africa has the highest overweight and obesity rate in sub-Saharan Africa, with up to 70% of women and a third of men being classified as overweight or obese. A staggering 40% of women in our country are obese, according to the Heart and Stroke Foundation. The bulk of our population used to be physically active, particularly in 1970 to 1999, and ate a diet high in fiber and indigenous vegetables, low in animal protein and refined carbs. However, due to increased urbanization, people are adopting a more westernized diet, high in unhealthy fats, sugar, and salt. Greater disposable income and a faster-paced lifestyle have resulted in people consuming more fast foods and convenient foods, according to the European Association for the Study of Obesity. The Department of Health realizes the seriousness of the obesity crisis and has included this in their National Non-Communicable Diseases Strategic Goals to assist with the obesity problem and increase physical activity by 10% by 2020, reduce the consumption of alcohol by 20% by 2020, reduce the percentage of people who are obese and overweight by 10% by 2020. Obesity has a significant impact on health and well-being. It may also burden a person's workplace abilities. Workers who are obese may need longer rest breaks to return to their initial state of muscle function. 2.6 million people die each year as a result of being overweight or obese, according to the World Health Organization.
This situation demands urgent strategic action encompassing a wide range of sectors, including those responsible for food and beverage production, manufacturing, marketing, and retail.
Obesity has major implications for the healthcare systems in South Africa as they are faced with increasing demands of care for health conditions related to obesity, overweight such as diabetes mellitus, osteoarthritis, cancers, and major cardiovascular diseases. There is no single cause of all overweight and obesity. There is no single approach to treating or preventing it. Treatments may include a mix of behavioral diet, exercise, and sometimes weight loss drugs. In some cases of extreme obesity, weight loss surgery may be an option.
Welcome back. Well, it's just hours to go before the much anticipated main day of the municipal elections. A very good afternoon to you.
We're live at the IEC Results Operations Centre in Pretoria with special voting in its second and final day across the country.
And earlier we had a visit here by the EFF leader Julius Malema, which certainly got the media momentum going after 2 days of relative quiet, and I suppose that relative quiet is going to come to an end quite soon.
Absolutely. As always, the customary press conference at 1 o'clock might get underway pretty soon, but we'll follow all the developments here on Channel 404. For now, it's back to Johannesburg, where Nompo Sasiba is standing by with the latest news.
Thanks, Natasha and Devon. Well, for now, let's cross live now to our IEC studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, where Gauteng Premier David Makura has just arrived. We seem to have a problem there, but we'll continue with the bulletin nonetheless. Former President Thabo Mbeki says he was unable to campaign for the ANC because of international work commitments. Mbeki was speaking to the media at his home in Johannesburg after meeting with the ANC's mayoral candidate for the city's Metro Parkstyle.
I have to be wandering around the continent quite a bit. Even now, last week I was in Tanzania, I wasn't here. No, I think that the campaign is quite in capable hands.
Parkstyle was upbeat about the elections.
I'm confident of victory. We're going into these elections at the back of a lot of work that's been done by the city of Johannesburg, and I think that the people would judge us on the basis of the work that we've done.
EFF leader Julius Malema held a news conference at the IEC's National Results Centre in Pretoria today. He said his party and its members had faced violence, threats and intimidation in the run-up to tomorrow's elections.
Above the capitalist greed demonstrated by the conscious expenditure of the DA and the ANC, the EFF campaign was met with violence. We have lost 2 members to electoral violent confrontation in Tembisa when a no-go area was declared in Sethuka Western. Our community meetings were violently disrupted in front of the whole world and in the presence of the media, in particular in Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal. In Polokwane, our female member was shot whilst campaigning at the taxi rank. In addition, there was a sustained effort to remove EFF posters, particularly in Gauteng, which was also joined by the Johannesburg Metro Police, who unashamedly removed EFF campaign material. In small white-dominated towns like Newcastle and Vryburg, and angry, small-minded, racist white people removed our posters whilst threatening the lives of our ground forces. This is despite the fact that in only 3 years of our existence, the EFF has demonstrated massive internal democracy. None of the branch meetings degenerated into fights that led to any drop of blood. Moreover, all the branches that set to nominate councillors candidates were EFF branches in good standing with actual paid-up membership. The local government election was test for our strength and our organizational strength, internal democracy, and the commitment to our revolutionary mission.
President Jacob Zuma is also expected at the IEC in Pretoria at around 2 this afternoon. So now let's try and cross over to our IEC studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, where Gauteng Premier David Makhura has just arrived.
Makeup needs to go. Well, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to the special broadcast. We're coming to you live from the IEC's Gauteng Results Centre. We're broadcasting from the SABC studios here in Auckland Park in Johannesburg. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, this is where we'll bring you all the voting and all the counting from the Gauteng province. Tomorrow we're expecting about 6.2 million registered voters in this province to go out and cast their ballots. But of course, the voting started yesterday with the special votes in Gauteng. We know that there are about 79,000 of those registered for the special votes. 50,000 of those will cast those ballots at the voting stations, and 29,000 of those the IEC would need to visit those homes. Now you would know that Gauteng is home to one of the hotly contested metros. We're talking about Johannesburg and the city of Tshwane, as well as Ekurhuleni. We know that the voting process since yesterday, according to the IEC, went through very smoothly, apart from just a few incidents, of course, at Ward 11 in Vereeniging, where the process was disrupted yesterday. But the IEC says that all processes are in place now to ensure that the election does continue quite smoothly. But of course, Gauteng has not been without its own controversies. It's been one of the provinces that has had the highest number of service delivery protests in 2016, of the more than 30 that we've seen around the country. Of course, of the 165, we saw more than 30 in the Gauteng province. It will be very interesting to see how the authorities will be able to deal with that as well. So we're expecting those 6.2 to 3 million of those registered voters to go out and cast their ballots. But who better to interview as we open the studio here today, this afternoon, than the first citizen of Gauteng, Premier David Makhura. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I think, Premier, is it all systems go in Gauteng for voting? Voting started yesterday already, but in particular for these 36 hotspots that are in Gauteng.
Yes, I think from the point of view of government, is all systems go. We're ready. There will be deployment of more than 16,000 law enforcement officers across the length and breadth of our province to ensure that the people of this province, who are the largest voting population we have in this election, 6.2 million, as we have said, are able to come out of their homes to go and vote, participate in this in a peaceful environment, so they can exercise their democratic right, this hard-won democratic right. So there will be peaceful elections, there will be free and fair elections, and this we can assure the people of our province.
Well, the process to this point has not been peaceful. We've got some of those hotspots in Gauteng. You're talking about 16,000 in terms of deployment when we look at the South African Police Service. We know that 2,000 soldiers are also going to be deployed to hotspots around the country. is part of that in Gauteng?
Well, all I can say is that the areas where we have had incidents, we know exactly where the hotspots are. We know where people have expressed the intention that if they don't want to participate in voting, they may want to prevent others. We want to call on all our citizens to respect the right of others, so that those who feel they don't want to vote should do so in a democratic way without hindering those who want to vote. We certainly know which areas are those. We are watching those areas, and if there's a need to do so, we will ensure that we will also descend on those areas tomorrow. But I am confident as a democracy that is maturing, that even those who don't want to participate in voting tomorrow will respect the rights of others. I want to particularly say that I think appeal to everybody to ensure that there's no peddling of false information about what's happening, Premier, which I have seen. I've seen that today.
Before we let you go, I understand we're running out of time. We saw that some of the ANC's mayoral candidates for Gauteng had visited former President Thabo Mbeki this morning. There seems to be several of the mayor candidates that were absent from that visit. Allegations perhaps that they're snubbing former President Thabo Mbeki?
I am here as the Premier of Gauteng to reassure all the citizens. Yes. I don't want to talk about party politics, not at this time. I've been in the campaign. I want to reassure the people of Gauteng. Tomorrow we see them out. We will protect them. We'll make sure they vote for whichever party of their choice. Party politics, I'm done with that.
All right, Premier, thank you very much for your time. Clearly pointing out he's not here as the Deputy Chairperson of the ANC in Gauteng, but of course in his capacity as the Gauteng Premier, reassuring all Gautengers that it will be safe to go out and vote tomorrow. The process has certainly gone very smoothly in Gauteng, of course, apart from that one incident in Ward 11 in Vereeniging yesterday, but saying also that all the police, 16,000 of them, are out and they're expecting the process to be quite smooth tomorrow. But let's hand back now to the main IEC centre in Pretoria.
We're going to do that just now. We're crossing to Pretoria right now.
Influencing an election. A case has been opened with the South African Police Service to investigate the source of these false reports and for referral to the prosecutorial authorities where these matters are concerned. The Electoral Commission advises all voters and stakeholders to be vigilant against mischievous and illegal attempts to mislead and misguide voters. The Electoral Commission remains open to all those voters that will be presenting themselves at our voting stations until 1700 hours today. We are also visiting those voters that we had planned to visit today, and we will complete the work we had set out to do. We thank you very much and good afternoon.
Thank you so much, CEO.
Well, there have been some new political
developments from your statement and allow the IEC panel to deal with some of those issues. I've got a question here on this side. Let me start here, Faith.
Hi, Faith Hannes from Kagiso Media. Is there any update on procedures in Buwani and the special votes there?
Okay.
Posterman from SABC TV News. If you can
please just take your mic a little bit up. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. If you can just please be more specific on the warnings issued and the dismissals. Do you have a number of how many officials are we talking about that have been dismissed and been issued with warnings? And earlier today we had a briefing by the EFF which said that certain complaints by parties to IEC are not taken seriously and are not investigated with urgency. If you can just respond to those allegations made by the EFF earlier. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Yvonne from Love World News. I just want to expatiate on the EFF press briefing that we had earlier. Julius Malema mentioned that there are some party agents that are being bought out allegedly by the ruling party. I also wanted you to just respond to those remarks. if there are any confirmed reports on
Hang on, can you please take your mic a little bit up?
Okay. Is this better? Yes. Okay. I was saying, I'm Yvonne from Love World News. I just wanted to add on to the EFF comments earlier. Julius did mention that there are some party agents that are being bought out, allegedly by the ruling party. So my question to you is, can you confirm those reports? What is your comment with regards to that? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me take one more question before I allow the IC panel to provide responses.
Good afternoon, Anton Meyer from Pretoria FM. You said yesterday that you received 28 complaints at national level related to the violations of the Electoral Code of Conduct. Have you received any more complaints, and have you also resolved I think it was 7 cases that you still had to resolve yesterday. Have you resolved any of them? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me allow the CEO and commissioners to deal with some of the issues. CEO, an update on Vuani special votes and where we are in that regard.
Any update on Vuani? They are voting. We have reports that work is proceeding in that in Vuani. We should be able to have a detailed report later in the day today. But I do assume that there are many reporters out in Vuani who are seeing this. I did indicate yesterday that there were 32 people that we were seeing in that area, and you will accept that in many of those instances we would have finished with them slightly early, or we are about to finish with this work. There was a question about how many officials. Okay. I don't have a count for you straight away, but we can provide you the count of officials that we have had to release from duty in the day-to-day. My colleagues will make that. I think what we are communicating to you is that where we find that there are violations or even violations to the Code of Conduct that our staff member has signed up to, we will, with no doubt, let that person go. There are a number of those instances where this has happened, and we have allowed them to go. But we'll give you the exact details. I'm not carrying them with me right now. There are allegations that there are certain allegations we have not investigated. That's what I understand. We have investigated every one of the complaints that have been forwarded to us. I have indicated yesterday that certain of these complaints are in fact undergoing an investigation, and some are fairly simple, others are very difficult, and we are dealing with those investigations. None of them has been left unanswered, and we have informed the political parties or the individuals that have raised those complaints about the progress that we have made. So the complainants are fairly well briefed about where we are. The allegation of party agents brought out by a party or someone, I think it's important that we explain that party agents are in fact authorized by a party, and they are given a letter, and we verify that letter. There is no, and in any instance, there are 2 party agents that are allowed. I don't understand when we say there are party agents being brought out, they would have been accredited by a party, and we would have confirmed. So there's nothing sinister about that, where they have been. And in any event, we would not have a party, giving us more than the requisite number of party agents at any station. I don't know if that clarifies your question. Any party is entitled to 2 party agents. They will have a letter of authority from that party, which we as the Electoral Commission will satisfy ourselves with, that they are indeed approved by that specific political party. The issue of complaints, I think I have indicated that every one of them we deal with. Today has been a fairly busy morning. There may be a number of updates, to complaints that we heard. But as said last night, there were 2 more complaints that we had received. That brings the number to 30. I know that my colleagues have issues that they have resolved that we need to deal with them, but we will be dealing with them hereafter. We will give you an update fairly early tomorrow or later today, depending on how far we go. But every one of these matters is indeed receiving our attention. Have you resolved any remaining ones? Yes, indeed. There are a number that we must finalize. Today, as I've indicated, that some of those investigations would have been completed, but we will be dealing with them hereafter. I imagine I've dealt with the questions that you had raised.
I just want to allow the chairperson of the IEC to make some additions to some of the issues that were raised.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think the question that relates to allegations of party agents being bought not to remain in the voting stations is an allegation. We as the Commission, we will await any evidence and matters and complaints to be forwarded. As a matter of policy and principles, we don't respond to statements of political party leaders or political parties through the media. So we note the question, but as a principle, what we're pointing out is that if there is any proof or any evidence, we will attend to it. But by and large, we believe that the party agents will adhere to what they are required to do by the Code of Conduct. Thank you.
Indeed, Chairperson, that is the expectation, and that is what political party leaders and independent candidates contesting these elections are clearly and are aware of. Let me take, if there are any other questions or no more questions, I'll be bringing this briefing to an end. I'm seeing a question on my left, 2 of them actually, if I can have the mic. Thanks, Itumeleng.
Stilman from SABC again. You mentioned that despite a record number of special vote applications, that turnout at voting station was, it varied considerably. So if you can just sum it up for us, how would you sum up yesterday's turnout? Are you satisfied? Are you disappointed with the actual turnout? If you can just give us an indication how you feel about the turnout. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's take the second question.
My question is on the statement that the CEO made yesterday that with the special voting, it will also assist just to observe any issues that might arise prior to tomorrow. So are you guys satisfied, and are you ready for the 3rd of August?
I'm going to peg your question. I'm going to come back to you later this evening around 6 o'clock when we share with South Africa, including journalists in the center, in terms of state of readiness for tomorrow. At that point in time, we'll see how we're doing. Thank you very much. Let me take one more question before I close and wrap up this afternoon's press briefing. Looks like we are covered, CEO. Only one more question on your process for tomorrow, for this afternoon. How are you? What's your turnout? Happy or not? Let's hear it.
We are satisfied with our voting stations. We accept one thing, that voters apply for special votes knowing when they will be coming to the voting stations. We create an environment for them to come in. There are stations that have reported that they have done, almost completed all of the special vote applications they had for the visits at the voting stations, and therefore they are closed. We have said so. But there are other stations where turnout was generally low. To say to you that turnout was poor will not be correct. We are just indicating, and I think it's important to say to those voters who may be planning to come to the voting stations to do so before we close today. But remember, these voters can still do so tomorrow. We are satisfied with the work we had set out to do for special voting at voting stations yesterday. There was a question about, has this process helped to deal with issues? Yes, it has. It has also identified some of the areas, which require our attention, and that's why we are providing that attention as we need it. I think, in an election such as this, everything that we need to clarify with voters, we will take advantage of the media and clarify it. But we'll also communicate so that voters clearly understand what preparations are in place for them to do the work that they need to do, or to come and cast the vote as they would. In instances where our processes needed fine-tuning, we are satisfied that we have done so, and we are prepared for tomorrow, and we look forward to elections taking place as we should. Thank you very much.
On that note, as CEO, let me perhaps inform members of the media that at 6 o'clock we'll have a press briefing on readiness for tomorrow, as all the voting stations will be opening. Let me thank members of the Commission as well as the Chief Electoral Officer for hosting this press briefing. They'll be coming back to us in a few hours just to assist us to prepare for tomorrow. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Usisiwe Jamsana, SABC News, Alice.
Mzwande Lembe, SABC News, Doha, Qatar.
Kunatibingwa SABC News, Alice.
Diabo Seto, SABC News, Geneva, Switzerland.
Nampumelo Siziba, SABC News, Moscow, Russia.
Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.
Craig Murray, SABC News, Stellenbosch.
We bring the news back home. We keep the nation fully informed.
Welcome back to our 404 viewers. Market news now. Asian shares were mixed today after a modestly lower day on Wall Street. Crude oil prices stabilized after their overnight tumble and the US dollar edged higher. Japan's Nikkei share average fell for the first time in 3 days as oil prices and a firm yen dented investors' confidence. It closed down 1.5%. Markets in Hong Kong were closed due to a typhoon warning. Mainland China stocks rebounded slightly as property shares jumped on encouraging price reports, while small caps bounced on signs of foreign interest. But trading remained thin as investors are still concerned about the economy and about market liquidity. The Shanghai Composite Index gained 0.6%. And over in the United States, on Wall Street yesterday, a drop in oil prices dragged down energy stocks, while tech companies Apple and Alphabet helped lift the Nasdaq to its highest close in over a year. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell by 0.1%. The S&P 500 also lost 0.1%, and the Nasdaq Composite Index bucked the trend, rising by 0.4%. Well, the all-share index has been trading largely in negative territory today. Market commentators suggesting that investors are likely to be cautious ahead of tomorrow's municipal elections. And because it's a national holiday tomorrow, the JSE will be shut. In the meantime, the rand has held its own against the dollar, remaining below the 14 against the dollar mark. When the local bourse reopens on Thursday, all eyes will be on whether the Bank of England decides to inject stimulus in the UK as that country's economic prospects worsen post-Brexit. And on Friday, the US jobs numbers are out, which will stimulate debate on what the US Fed will likely do in terms of an interest rate move going forward. Let's take a look at the indicators. Well, I'm joined by Warwick Lucas. He's Chief Investment Officer at Galileo Capital. Thank you for joining us, sir.
My pleasure.
Good stuff. Broadly speaking, we see that the JSE has generally been in negative territory. We've seen European stocks lift slightly. Asian stocks were mixed. So what's been driving the markets today?
Well, I think the JSE taking some cue from the elections, although I'm not really sure that that's really a good reason to. I mean, it's a healthy part of democracy, frankly. I think also a little bit of caution coming in there on the back of that easing in Asia. I mean, Asian growth question remains, and we're seeing that also coming through in the oil price, also a little bit softer. I would have thought that precious metals should be helping the JSE, but clearly that's not the case. And, of course, sometimes the JSE doesn't always like a slightly stronger rand.
When you talk about the easing in Asia, are you referring to the Australian Central Bank deciding to cut interest rates slightly?
Well, I mean, from the point of view of that indicates the Australian Central Bank foresees the need to assist growth for sure, but also the ongoing questions of growth in both China and Japan in particular. Those economies clearly limping along below what one would hope.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the UK. We saw that global PMI numbers came out, generally, but the UK numbers really disappointed. Are the Brexit chickens beginning to come home to roost?
Well, I think the Brexit chickens actually came home to roost starting about January. I mean, the British economy has been in quite a weak spot for a while. Deficits, trade and budget all headed the wrong way. The lead indicators looking weak. So, and I think are holding back on investment there ahead of the Brexit vote anyway. So that's actually already been coming through to some degree. Obviously, Brexit now means a lot more noise and uncertainty in that economy. So we'll see that coming through for the next 18 months at least.
Given this concern and uncertainty, we have the Bank of England making a decision on interest rates on Thursday. So what's the expectation? Will they provide more stimulus?
Well, I think if they don't, there will be some genuine disappointment. I mean, they have telegraphed up until now that they'd digest the news for a month or so, pending the release of a package, for lack of a better word. So if we don't see some kind of a package coming through from the BOE, then yes, I think some disappointment will come through in their currency and probably in their markets.
Well, if we assume what the market wants, that there is some sort of stimulus, what impact then would that have for the South African rand, for example, and the South African economy in general?
Well, given the importance of Britain as a trading partner for us, I think quite clearly a cut would be positive from our point of view, no question.
Okay. Next, at the end of this week, we have the US non-farm payrolls. That's basically their jobs numbers coming out for the month of July. That's a key number that the markets look at. What's the expectation? And even if the number is robust, given everything that's going on, will the US Fed be inclined to raise rates?
Well, normally we look for around about just under 200,000 there, but as we've seen in the last few months, it can be an incredibly noisy number. Trading on it, as I always say, is a triumph of hope over experience. Nevertheless, from what we're seeing in the growth print coming from the US, things there being a little bit subpar. And I would say that the Fed is looking like it's on a bit of a holding pattern. We're seeing that coming through in the dollar, which generally not being as strong this year as it has been for some time. So I would say I'm looking for the Fed to be on hold.
And then here at home, we still have some PMI data still coming out from Standard Bank. Yesterday it was the Barclays PMI. They're still looking at the manufacturing sector in general. They say it ticked up slightly from 49.6 to 49.9. It's still below 50, which is basically the demarcation point between contraction and expansion. But when we look at it, it doesn't really look as though the manufacturing sector is gaining much traction, especially when you look at how weak the rand has been.
Yeah, I mean, it's really crawling back there towards the red like a wounded grasshopper. Basically, we're still seeing some signs of the right direction in new orders locally, new orders for export. But it remains a tough space. Business clearly held back by the fact that the consumer has absolutely no confidence whatsoever. So generally quite a tricky number. One positive light, though, it looks like there's a bit of hiring going on there, bit of capacity being put back in the system. So it looks like business is starting to peep above the parapet, but it's very tenuous at this stage.
And then I did ask you this last week, but we have to talk about it again. We're on the eve of elections, municipal elections. What is it, do you think, what would you advise our viewers to contemplate as they go to the polls in terms of their economic and financial well-being when they consider who they want to vote for?
Well, I think the key issue is sustainability. They've got to be voting for someone who represents their interests sustainably. If, for example, you have a party that places politics entirely above the economy, you've got to ask whose interests are being looked after, the parties or the people's. So the key issue is as well balance. I mean, do they look after capital entirely, or do they look after labour entirely? And the fact of the matter is that economies are about trade-offs. You can't have a populace that's neglected, and you can't have business neglected in such a way that it can't sustainably replicate itself, create jobs, create employment. And that is really what voters have to think about. And right now, in the middle of these tough times, they have to also think about who's actually going to get them out of these tough times.
That's very good advice. Thank you very much. Well, that was Warwick Lucas. He's Chief Investment Officer at Galileo Capital. After the break, I'll have some more business news for you.
News Today keeps you informed with news locally and around the world.
When Judge John Hlophe challenged the Supreme Court of Appeal when it sent the matter back and said that there must be an inquiry set up.
We unpack business news.
There's an increase in general inflation in the country.
We give you up-to-date news of the day.
The drugs were seized at several locations in Sydney, including a shipping container sent from Hong Kong. Police say it's their largest haul of illicit drugs in 2 years.
We round up sports news.
Kosata, tell me about the legacy that you would like to build and be remembered for.
Trying to get my foundation running, which is going to focus on, all the sport, doesn't matter disability or able body. So, I'm passionate about sports.
Stay informed every Monday to Friday from 3 to 5:30 p.m. CAT. SABC News.
Welcome back. As the strike by Sipwawi members continues in the fuel industry, the retail price of petrol in South Africa will decrease by 7.4% from midnight tonight, and the price of wholesale diesel will go down by 6.3%. The price of petrol will fall by 99 cents to 12 Rand 35 a litre in the country's commercial hub, Gauteng. Diesel will dip by 74 cents to 10 Rand 97 cents a litre. The long-awaited drop in the fuel price comes after a decrease in international oil prices and a strengthening of the Rand against the dollar. Well, the local government elections take place at a time when the economy has taken a knock and prospects for jobs and growth are dim. South Africans head out to cast their votes tomorrow. Analysts say many will make their mark next to a candidate that will at least seek to address their financial concerns. In the last municipal election, the ANC won 62% of the vote, but this year this figure is already fiercely contested by the Democratic Alliance, economic freedom fighters and other smaller parties.
With less than 24 hours left before South Africans go to cast their municipal votes, we've gone out to find out what they should consider as they cast their votes for these very, very important elections. We've spoken to a couple of economists and analysts, and this is what they had to say.
Bread and butter issues normally at the end of the day sway people over long periods of time. So people look at their own circumstances and say, well, how can I make it better? Who best talks to me? Normally for municipal elections, it's local issues. Why am I paying too much for my rates? Why am I not getting it on time?
We need to remember where we come as a country, that it was, first of all, it wasn't quite easy to cast a vote. And now that we can do that, we need to make sure that we think about it in a holistic fashion and that a few things have been done that are contributing positively to the economy. We have averted a downgrade. There are some positive signs that, like in the manufacturing sector, economic growth may be turning around there. So we ought to just have a holistic picture about that. South Africa, it's a small, open country that gets impacted by issues that are overseas. But even in that, we've been able to not look like Brazil. And in that outcome, I think the authorities that are leading the economy has done a very good job.
At the core of any local election will be issues like service delivery, delivery of housing, delivery of utilities, water and sanitation, electricity, etc. I think it's fair to say that most South Africans are facing a lot of pressure and due financial hardship. So they'll be putting their vote next to someone who they feel would be able to deliver on many of these critically important issues.
With the slow pace of economic growth, unemployment sitting as high as 26% and other bread and butter issues, it will be interesting to see how South Africans consider these issues as they make their marks on those ballot boxes when they vote. Diabo Seto, SABC News, Johannesburg.
SAB Miller and AB InBev intend to complete the long-awaited takeover in October. The two companies have agreed to a timetable for the implementation of the combination after concluding the merger last month. The completion of the deal remains subject to a number of conditions, including the approval of two companies' shareholders. AB InBev approached SAB Miller in September about its intention to make an offer for the South African company. The Competition Commission approved the deal worth $100 billion with conditions in May this year. The deal was dealt a heavy blow recently after concerns that the weaker pound following the Brexit vote devalued it. AB InBev then increased its offer to £45 a share from £44, announced in October. AB InBev will today begin the process of forming a new company called Nubelco. Farmers in the Free State province affected by the drought continue to receive animal feed to assist their farms. More than 200 emerging farmers from Tabanchu, east of Bloemfontein, have received over 500 bags of animal feed. This initiative is a continuation of assistance provided by the Department of Agriculture.
Farmers from Tabanchu have welcomed the bags of fodder handed over to them by the Free State Department of Agriculture. Due to the recent drought, farmers have faced many difficulties, especially finding grazing land for their animals.
We need to assist with fodder, which is something that we know that it would only assist them for the time being, whilst they find ways and means of reviving and ensuring that their production is well on course.
Farmers say the fodder assistance could not have arrived at a better time.
We are very happy. We say thank for government for supporting us.
I'm so glad to have this opportunity today.
We are so thankful for the minister that he provides us with animal feeds, and it will be grateful for our community for that, so that our animal cattle can survive.
MEC Khwabane says that farmers should remember that this is not charity, but assistance to help them maintain and possibly grow their businesses. Sitati Simenukani, SABC News, Tabanchu.
We've brought you the elections manifestos.
We have taken you on the campaign trails, the rallies and the door-to-door campaigns, and we caught the tension on tape.
And even the drama when internal battles spilled into the public eye. Our cameras kept on rolling.
And now, we bring you the race for seats. A record number of 63,654 candidates want your vote.
As the numbers trickle in, we'll give you live updates from across the country and from the hotspots. While the police keep a watchful eye, so will Africa.
Wherever you are, stay updated.
Wherever you are, stay updated.
Wherever you are, stay updated.
The SABC, the nerve center of South Africa's elections news.
South Korea has suspended sales of 80 Volkswagen models and fined the German car maker over allegations the firm rigged emissions test data. Volkswagen will be fined 17.8 billion Korean won, which equates to $16 million, in addition to another fine from last year. Europe's largest car maker admitted last year that it had falsified emissions data in its diesel vehicles. The firm has since suffered a global setback in sales and reputation. The sales ban in South Korea affects 32 types of cars, including the VW Golf and Jetta. South Korea's Environment Ministry also revoked certification for an additional 83,000 cars, bringing the total number of cars decertified to more than 200,000. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has warned that his country could face tough measures to help the country's weak economy. His latest comment comes as the government negotiates a $12 billion loan program with the International Monetary Fund. Cairo last week said it was seeking $4 billion a year over 3 years from the IMF to help plug a funding gap. The government hopes to finalize the deal this month. Sisi's government has been at pains to avoid a public backlash by showing that reforms are homegrown and not imposed from outside. The import-dependent nation has faced a dollar shortage since the 2011 uprising that ended Hosni Mubarak's 30-year rule. Traders on the black market say business volumes have fallen as people wait to find out more details about the IMF loan program and a possible devaluation of the Egyptian pound. Well, with that, let's take a look at how the African markets are performing.
democratic vote. In 1994, we were there.
To usher in democracy and bring about a new South Africa. Over the years, blow-by-blow coverage of the election. And now, we'll be bringing you
the numbers as they come in on your TV, computer, and even on your phone. Well, think about it as your personal guide to the elections.
Get to know why your municipality is hotly contested.
Wherever you are, stay updated.
The SABC, the nerve center of South Africa's elections news.
Let's take one final look at the markets. Well, that's a wrap from us for now. More news for you at the top of the hour, but your weather details coming up next with Sihle.
Thank you very much, Mpumi. Yes, it is time to see what is happening in the weather, and I'll take a special look at what is happening tomorrow for your election if you are going to vote. As we can see, there's a minor cold front just coming through from the west coast, and with it you can expect up to 60% chance of rainfall all the way towards Cape Town, while a high field fire danger warning is expected for most parts of the Northern Cape, accompanied with a bit warmer conditions and also stronger winds to be northwesterly winds for today. Fog along the west coast, especially in the morning, but it is clearing as the day progresses. Along the south coast, expecting clear skies. Tomorrow, the cold front will be coming through, moving towards the eastern parts. As you can see, snowfalls. First things first, snowfalls starting all the way over the Drakensberg, going towards southern parts of Lesotho. As you can see, that's a lighter shade. And behind it, you've got strong winds, up to 50 km/h winds, especially over the interior of the Eastern Cape. While along the south coast, all the way from about Cape Town, Hermanus, going towards George, going towards Port Elizabeth, you can expect up to 80% chance of thunderstorms for tomorrow. So if you're voting in any of those areas, just please do take care to either go early or carry an umbrella. Make sure that you're dressed warm. And over the interior, there's a snow area around it. You can expect a lot of frost. Places like the R, Sutherland, Calvin, you can expect a lot of frost in those areas. Looking at the interior, looking at Free State, mainly partly cloudy conditions are expected, but you can expect very cold conditions in the morning. Looking at northern parts towards Gauteng, you can expect clear skies, but the temperatures will be cold. Let's look at this afternoon for now, and we'll come back to what is happening tomorrow. Looking at Bethlehem, up to 18 this afternoon at 18:40. Along the south coast, it is a bit warm. Looking at George and Riversdale, at George is at 26, Riversdale at 25, along the east coast in the region of 23. It is a bit warmer today, but tomorrow everything's going to change. Let's start with the provinces. Looking at Gauteng, Johannesburg at 20, Vereeniging 19, Carltonville for tomorrow, expecting a high of 19. For Johannesburg, if you're voting anywhere, let's see that you've got clear skies for the whole day. Winds are a bit light. You've got 5 km/h wind. Maximum is at 19. It drops to 12 degrees at night. Looking at Limpopo, can expect partly cloudy conditions for tomorrow, but no rainfall is expected. Polokwane at 20 degrees. Mokopane at 25 degrees. All places over the eastern part. Look at Parabola, reaching a high of 27. Over Mpumalanga, you can expect partly cloudy conditions. Looking at what is happening in places like Mbombela, it's still warm, 25. Skukuza at 30 degrees. Carolina at 21 degrees. While places like Secunde can expect cloudy conditions with a maximum of 21. Looking at the KZN, rainfall is expected, especially along the coast, not so much over the interior. Look along the coast, Durban at 21, Richards Bay at a high of 27 degrees. If you just separate Durban into the whole day, you can expect a morning to be partly cloudy. The midday, that's when you're expecting the rainfall And then at night, that's when you're expecting clear skies. So if you're voting, I'd rather go first thing early in the morning. Let's move towards Eastern Cape, where we can expect mostly sunny conditions, but rainfall is expected in places. Looking at Alloa North, partly cloudy conditions are expected, with maximums in the very cold region, 12 to 13. Most of Western Cape, you can expect rainfall. Then the temperatures are also agreeing with that. You see that it is mainly cool for the whole province. Looking at Northern Cape, you can expect mainly just partly cloudy conditions in the southern parts. Looking at Sutherland reaching a high of 7 degrees, very cold. Northern parts, you've got clear skies for Northern Cape. Free State, you can expect mainly just clear skies, except for Vepenaro, where you can expect some rainfall with a high of 14 degrees. And last but not least, we've got Northwest. What we have is clear skies and very cold temperatures. Remember to stay tuned to SABC News.
From the moment you start your day.
My biggest question is how I got myself here on time.
Yeah.
This is so early for a comedian, I gotta be honest.
We are there for you. We bring your morning into perspective.
As news breaks throughout the morning,
is an investment into the future of the airports company, but also the future of our children, the future of our country, the future of the transport sector.
we'll make sure that you get the full story.
Give us quality music.
Load shedding. Listen, this winter.
It's a thing of the past.
And you can count on the weather team with expertise.
Join us live at 6 a.m. daily.
What's wrong with Triple M? What is illegal here? Who is being defrauded here, Trevor?
It is about the best interest of the citizens of this country.
But the citizens are the ones who are playing, who are members or participants in this. If you put in 15,000 rand, after 12 months you get 1.2 million rands. I mean, who wouldn't go for this?
Watch Question Time with me, Mpho Tsedu, Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on the SABC News Channel.
Yeah, it's more of a validation, you know, it's more of like, okay, you're on it, because it's been a dream and a goal from the beginning, like to get here.
The fact that the rest of the world is actually acknowledging the amount of work we put into, you know, into music as Africa as a whole, I think it's fantastic. It's a big one for South Africa too.
The School of Ballet in Nigeria has changed many a mindset in dance.
Saw it a lot on TV and we looked at it like something that probably could not be taught to us because we thought it was like a white man dance or probably something it's their culture now, but it actually taught me that it's not just about culture because dance is a language.
For more arts and entertainment news, catch Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
The act of travel is an eye-opening activity that not only expands your view but is a major part of any country's economy. South Africa's spectacular scenery, friendly people and world-class infrastructure make it one of the most desired destinations in the world. Despite tough global economic conditions, the tourism sector is steadily growing. But the idea that one has to go far in order to explore is quickly changing as the sector encourages local exploration. South Africa's history has been one of confrontation, but is now also known as one of reconciliation. World-class sites have been established to commemorate the country's past and celebrate its newfound unity. An area of tourism that is often overlooked is the question of the arts and tourism. Although many cities have not taken advantage of this element to attract international visitors, the domestic artistic tourism is fast becoming a key drawcard for local exploration. A-grade exhibition centers are creating modern spaces to showcase what makes up the African expression. A good dose of creative capital is playing a major role as entrepreneurs create new and exciting ways to sell their products, thus creating new vibrant local spaces that are changing the face of our communities. South Africa has earmarked tourism as a key sector with excellent potential for growth, and a vast amount is being poured into changing the face of our spaces, making them vibrant, urban, and exciting.
Well, a very good afternoon here from the IEC's Results Centre in Pretoria, and it's certainly beginning to pick up momentum. Just a few hours left for political parties to sell their offerings. Also, a few moments ago, we had a press briefing by the IEC's Masutu Moepia, updating the media on today's special voting, so largely saying they are satisfied, and so far just a few hiccups. He also said that they are allowing for officials to fine-tune their preparations for tomorrow's big day. But now let's hand over to Devon at the graphics board.
Thanks very much indeed, Natasha. I mean, we'll take a look at all the formal comments coming in here at the IEC Centre. We had a big day, as you mentioned, today. Julius Malema, the leader of the EFF here, giving a press briefing, also expecting the president very soon. And given the fact that we've seen so much formal comments, we thought we'd go onto the ground. This is an election about holding local councillors responsible for the matters that interest you. So we thought we'll take a look at some social media comments just before we get into it and find out what the people on the ground are saying on social media. Let's start with someone from Hazy. I vote for change in good service delivery, clean water and better rural infrastructure. And that really is the sentiment of this election, isn't it? At SABC elections, I will vote for service delivery and permanent jobs, says Lindy Sipo. And then Sebastian Maruma, I am looking for land for the elderly to farm veggies and for them to create some relief. And we've seen the land question come up, particularly with the EFF in their campaigns. Sipo Mr. writes, I vote for change in good service delivery, clean water and better rural infrastructure. We continue. Mabuso Mohlane at Morning Live SABC, I am voting for stability. And this is basically the sentiment that's been coming up in the lead up to tomorrow's big day. Of course, we have that special votes happening from yesterday, and they conclude at 5 o'clock. Pamish says, I'll use my vote to make a change for poor service delivery in the roundabout Erkoleni is becoming a norm, basically saying that poor service delivery becoming pretty much a usual occurrence in that part of the country. I will vote for change, says Kenneth. Basic needs like water and cheaper electricity, poor service delivery and corruption must stop, in capital letters. Pindi says, I'm voting for my voice to be heard. How can one person spend so much while there is lots of people living in poverty? And have we got time for one more? All right. I am voting for a party that has given young people like me education and job opportunities. Petoho. All right, so that pretty much wraps up what people are saying on social media. Back to Natasha now for more on the elections.
All right, thank you, Devon. And we are now joined for a bit more analysis ahead of tomorrow's vote by Nyeleng Morusi, who's a data scientist at the CSIR. And Nyeleng, very, very good to have you with us. Welcome. Now, you saw us going through some of those tweets there, and I think the key word there is sentiment and how people are feeling. They tweet about what they want, what they will be voting for. Do you think a tool like Twitter is overlooked in calculating public sentiment and how that equates to what we might be seeing for these elections?
I wouldn't say it's been overlooked. I think actually if you look at the top three political parties, they've actually gone out and driven a very social media based campaign. So I wouldn't say they've done that. And we've got some really good examples of when sentiment analysis was used effectively in analyzing political campaigns. For example, in the 2012 elections in Kenya, where they actually used the sentiment analysis to figure out where the hotspots are for probable violent riots. But there is a bit of a drawback, especially in using sentiment analysis in a country like South Africa, because a lot of these tools, once again, are built on dictionaries. They're built on English dictionary, British English and American dictionary. When you come to a country such as South Africa with such a diversity of language, trying to understand automatically derived meaning from a tweet becomes very tricky. Already language is very tricky in understanding meaning, and now you're trying to automate it with a computer.
All right, Nyeleng, I'm going to have to pause this interview because I'm getting reports of visuals of our Cyril Ramaphosa, the Deputy President, who is who's at the IEC at the moment. So those are the visuals that are coming through now. We will, of course, continue with our interview. All right, we will keep you updated with what's happening outside. We can see Cyril Ramaphosa walking around. He's coming for his tour of the IEC. But in the meantime, let's continue talking about this public sentiment. And as you say, you can gauge those hotspots. Assuming that you've got all of the information captured correctly with the users' demographics, with those hotspots, with sentiment, can you start looking at predictions already?
Predictions are tricky because a lot of the predictive analytics, any that would be deployed, are going to be systems that you've understand the structure of the data. So once you know what the demographics are, if you have properly captured what people are likely vote for, then yes, then you can have really good predictions. But without capturing what the electoral demographics looks like, it can be very tricky. But I know there is a team actually from the CSIR that has built a predictive machinery for this, and these tools are being deployed in many other areas for doing so. It's been done. It just needs a little bit more fine-tuning.
All right. Yes. And just to let our viewers know that the Deputy President is currently voting at a school in Hyde Park. He's casting his special vote, so that's what's going on there at the moment. Okay, so bringing it back to this, so there's a definite correlation, or is there a definite correlation between what the Twitter sphere, if I can call it that, what it maps in terms of public sentiment and predictions and what actually happens in reality?
Yeah, no, that's a little bit more tricky. So one of the things that's very important also with Twitter is representation. So how many of the people are being captured on social media and who's being captured? And you will find that, especially like in South Africa, we've got a map up there and you see the metropolitan areas up and alive, but there's a whole chunk of the country that we're not seeing. But even the ones that are up and alive, it's who is that? It's probably people that are younger. It's probably people that are below 40. And there is a chunk of other voters. And it's probably people that just are anyway okay with having having a lot of their life out in the public, because that's what being on social media can mean.
So how important, I mean, you're a data scientist, so how important is this kind of data in political campaigning? Because if you look at somebody like Barack Obama in the United States, he definitely had, or part of his success in his campaign was getting that Twitter sphere alive with his campaign.
Yes.
So have we seen that here?
In South Africa, it's been very alive. We have the ANC, we have EFF, we have DA, very alive on Twitter. They've been talking to the people. We've got trends of them whenever they hold their rallies. We hear them talking out and live. Like, for example, if you look at Twitter, like on the 31st, right there on the graph, you get to see this jump, and that was August 31st. These were the rallies that were being held. So the politician, the parties are talking to the people, and the people are talking about the politicians. So you can see trends also about the politicians themselves, if you see up there. So that's about Malema and Zuma, so it's very alive, the chatter. But even more, what's even important is that there's been a conversation, and this is not the first time we've seen this in South Africa. For example, the city of Tshwane is perfect at this. You tweet to them, they respond right back to you, and this has become a front for people to communicate. So I can't say that just by looking at tweets you'll know how people are going to vote, but you have an option of the political companies getting to meet their electorates, the ones that they wouldn't have got to meet without traveling to all these areas. Because on social media, we share our lives, we share our friends, we share what we do, and everything like that. So you can use that information to then campaign, have targeted campaigns.
All right, and just to once again let our viewers know, we're getting live visuals now of the Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, casting his special vote, so we can see that happening now live. And of course, this is happening in Hyde Park, at a school in Hyde Park, the Deputy President. And of course, we know that the special votes are closing in a few hours' time on the second day of special voting. So we have Cyril Ramaphosa casting his special vote now. All right, Inyaleng, what can we look for in terms of tweets changing over the past few weeks as we get closer to Election Day? Has there been a marked change? And what will you be looking for as a data scientist from tomorrow?
Well, I think some of the things, for now, if you start off from just looking at trends, one of the quick things that you can use this data coming in from is, for example, to meet the needs at each polling station. Because people are going to stand in line, and if the line is slow or something like that, they're going to be tweeting about it. Or if something really exciting happening there, they're going to be tweeting about it. And so from then, we can actually capture that data and in the future improve upon our services of how we run elections based on some of the trends that we captured in this election.
All right, Inyaleng, thank you very much. Inyaleng Murusi, our data scientist at the CSIR, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks, Natasha.
All right, well, let's take you back now to those visuals of the Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, casting his special vote in Hyde Park.
All right, there you go. Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa in a school in Hyde Park casting his vote in the local government elections. Of course, he's been quite vocal about what the ANC has in store for the country should the ANC take that inevitable winning. And of course, you know, the Deputy President, of course, pushing in much of the sentiment that we've seen over the past 2 months, saying that the ANC wants to end all forms of corruption, assuring supporters, just like the President Zuma did, saying that the ANC will lead municipalities and encourage them to spend their budgets only on essential services. That was a remark made by President Jacob Zuma in a rally at Ellis Park over the weekend. The Deputy President also very strong on the fact that they will only deploy qualified and appropriate people at municipalities. He's been very heavy on the campaign trail across the country in South Africa ahead of this major poll. So he's got those papers in his hands. He now proceeds just to end that voting process. Cyril Ramaphosa, the Deputy President of the country, in the ballot box in Hyde Park. So we'll hand back now to Johannesburg in Auckland Park.
All right, we are getting live visuals.
Thanks very much, Devon. Well, as Devon was mentioning, that was the Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, just casting his vote there. Let's cross back to Pretoria, the IEC.
All right, so from the ballot box in Hyde Park, we bring you now back to the IEC, where we have just seen the President walk in. President Jacob Zuma coming for his tour of the IEC. You can see he's being flanked by a media scramble to get a shot of the President walking around. And as Devon was saying, this does, of course, come on the back of strong sentiment that we heard on Sunday at the party's final rally, which kicked off at Ellis Park, obviously in the final countdown to the local elections, which start tomorrow in those in the votes. And the ANC more confident, I would say, than when it battled to fill a stadium in Port Elizabeth at their election manifesto launch. And of course, after the polls close on Wednesday, all eyes will be on the results, particularly in the big cities where opposition parties have vowed to take control from the ANC, especially in Tshwane, Nelson Mandela Bay, and Johannesburg. So we are getting a good shot here of the President at the IEC.
All right, and as we saw earlier with the EFF leader, IEC officials basically doing the roundabout with the leader, the president of the ANC, Jacob Zuma, and just outlining the processes as these next 2 or 3 days unfold in terms of what mechanisms will be in place when those results do flow in. A lot of media interest as expected. And there you go, the president of the ANC, Jacob Zuma, with those IEC officials pointing to, I suppose, all the machinery and the processes that will unfold as the votes start rolling in.
Now, we have been seeing a lot of the president in the build-up to the elections doing a lot of door-to-door campaigns that have been happening in the past weeks, which basically allows the ANC to hear what it can do better. So it'll be interesting to see what the president is getting to hear now from the IEC officials. And we've just seen, of course, the Deputy President casting his special vote as we count down the last few hours of special voting before the polls open nationwide tomorrow.
All right, so there you go. The President Jacob Zuma doing some greetings of IEC officials, probably operations people as well, on the ground, doing exactly what was done earlier with the EFF leader, the IEC officials pointing out the mechanisms that will underplay itself or play out as the results start streaming in to the election centre. Now, President Jacob Zuma comes fresh out of that big rally on Sunday where he gave his party's stance on corruption, saying that they hope to curb it, they hope to take it out completely, also vowing that they will deploy only professional and competent people in those municipalities. He made a point of saying that the ANC officials have always been the party that went to the ground, to the electorate. And of course, it also comes in the midst of that controversy with the DA using the picture of Nelson Mandela. And the president quite vocal about the fact that the former president belongs with the ANC. So that walkabout continues now as the president is flanked by IEC officials.
And Devon, you speak about coming fresh out of that rally. He also spoke a lot on what the ANC has done, and he will be passing. The president will be passing our studio, our little booth now. So we're getting quite a nice shot as he walks past and takes a look at all the IEC officials that are working tirelessly to make sure that everything runs smoothly. And with the president, we can see Glenn Mashinini there and some of Some of our journalists and our people responsible for all of our social media, our digital news, they're down there making sure that they get some good shots, something to put up on our SABC website with all our election coverage. So, of course, you can go up and have a look. I'm sure this is live streaming. But speaking about that rally, the president spoke about households and that the ANC has done exceptionally well in the running of the city of Johannesburg, and that the city's received many international accolades for the good work that they've done to transform the city. So he said that they've provided millions of homes. So really he used that rally to sort of solidify the good work that the ANC has done since 1994.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the ruling party. You can always have something tangible to actually measure by. And I think the ANC has been pushing this, that they have made progress on a number of fronts, on housing, on electricity, and basically, poor people being lifted out of poverty. That's the difference between the ANC and the other parties, in that they have those tangible measures that they can use to...
Well, especially for a party like the EFF, who hasn't... This is their first local election.
Yeah, that component is missing with the EFF. So the President Jacob Zuma has... It looks like he's completed the tour of the IEC Centre. He's moving upstairs now, and we're not quite sure whether or not he'll address the media, but I think that's pretty much it for the President's tour of the IEC, doing a roundabout to check out what is likely to unfold at this results centre over the next few days. All right, so we spoke to our analyst a little earlier, and I think one interesting point that came up was that this election really is about holding councillors responsible for the matters that matter to you at ground level. And I think it's interesting to see that there's a different mental dynamic when it comes to a national election, and when you compare that to local elections on the ground. So it will be interesting to see the type of turnout we have tomorrow.
And I think that's something that the EFF has pinned their whole campaign on, is making sure that they change things in terms of service delivery and holding their councillors to account for what they provide to people. And that's been the message that they've sort of put across in terms of campaigning and saying we can make sure that we provide better.
It's interesting when you talk about the EFF and you look at their last major rally in Polokwane, or rather at the Peter Mokaba Stadium in Limpopo. I mean, Julius Malema speaking largely in the vernacular, and I guess it speaks to the sort of revolutionary speak that he often speaks about, focusing on promises of the people on the ground. Largely filling up Peter Mokaba Stadium over the weekend, so that was quite interesting to see. And I see he continued with the rhetoric of people on the ground when he was here earlier this afternoon. And
you mentioned his sort of radical speaking or radical thinking, and it reminds me of, we can't forget about the meeting that he had yesterday with Thabo Mbeki, and in that he said we went to Mbeki because we believe that he has the same ideals as the EFF. The EFF are Africanists, and we believe Thabo Mbeki is an Africanist. So it's interesting to see the different dynamics between the different parties.
Yep, indeed. And there you see, just to speak over those visuals once again, Jacob Zuma, the president, still doing that roundabout, and I believe he's probably up at the same situation or same area where the SABC has its radio and television terminals, being shown once again by IEC officials, the different parts of the centre and how the operations unfold.
All right, well, just getting nice visuals there of the president getting his tour of the IEC. But we're now turning our attention to the Matsikama municipality in the Western Cape, which is the economic hub of the region and situated close to the Northern Cape border. Matsikama is made up of 18 towns. The main economic sectors are manufacturing, agriculture, forestry and fishing, as well as transport. But since 2006, Matsikama has never had an outright win by any one political party, with the municipality always being run through a coalition government. So the SABC spent some time in this area finding out how the people of the region feel about the upcoming elections.
Vredendal, a little town in the northernmost part of the Western Cape. Being the economic hub of this region, it's also the seat of the Matsikama municipality. Named after an old farm in the area, Vredendal means Valley of Peace. But for Elise Klaaser, who was born and bred here, peace is something she has not been familiar with for a long time. A former farm labourer, now without work, she, her family and their neighbours fight for survival here in these old farmhouses. They still live on the farm they grew up in and worked on, but here they are provided with no services.
As ek water op tap, mevrou, en ek kyk in die emmer, daar is goedjies wat swem. Wat is dit? Ek weet nie wat gogga is of wat het is nie. Maar kook ek nou kos aan my. Wat gaan word? Ek kan die hospitaal toe stuur met hy water saam.
Life is not easier. There is no sanitation, no electricity. But despite being let down by the system year after year, Klaaser says she still lives in hope that by voting, a change will come.
Ek voel om te stem, want ons voel die regte. Moet ons kry, mevrou. Ons wil aan mekaar so lewe nie, mevrou. Hulle beloof, hulle maak beloftes. Maar hulle kom nooit so ver met beloftes na te kom. Ons bly kyk hoe lank sit ons aan mekaar net hier. Ons kan loop, maar 'n tree gaan ons nooit vorentoe nie.
Klaaser is not the only one seeking a better life.
Mostly in the rural areas, there are still dusty roads. Some people with no electricity, no water supplies, any of those basic sanitary needs that we need in the communities.
Some areas where there are informal settlement, there is no running water, no toilets, no electricity.
Ik ga stemmen en ik wil stem voor een beter leven voor ons hier in Klaver. Hulle moet voor ons alles wat tarieven wat ons wil hebben, moeten hulle voor ons geven en voor werk. Ons is allemaal werkloos.
Onze straat ligt nou al lang stukken, die brandt niet. En ons het al verschillende keren aangemerkt.
Meer werkskepping, behuising, geleenthede vir jong mense, soos learnerships of soos beurse vir college toe gaan.
While many residents do say they're fairly satisfied with the services they're provided with, they say there is always room for improvement.
Matsikama is made up of, among others, Vredendal, Van Reinsdorp, Klaver, Doringbaai and Lutzville. And the feeling is fairly similar across all these towns, with an unemployment rate of 14% and a youth unemployment rate of around 19%. Job creation is one of the main concerns here. That and having decent housing.
While decent housing is something the municipality can be held responsible for, job creation is not actually one of its primary roles. Even though here in Matsikama, the municipality does try to enter into partnerships with the private sector to fill this gap. Political parties contesting the election here all say they will pay close attention to the services they are responsible for if they're elected into power. Listening to the politicians outline their manifestos and plans to improve lives here is enough to make any would-be voter sing, even though Klaaser says she has been let down so many times by promises and visits made only during election time.
Asseblief, my pa kom al mooi. Asseblief, my pa kom al mooi.
Will she eventually see these promises translated into services? Services that she and so many other communities around the country need? Or will these promises just turn into another pipe dream on the horizon for people like Elise Klaaser? Abra Barbia, SABC News, Matsikama.
Well, Abra Barbia, they're giving us a report in Matsakana, that town, and talking about voting aspirations and the challenges that community faces. Well, the President, Jacob Zuma, is still on the premises of the IEC Results Centre. We expect him to address the media shortly, but that inspection now of all the different components and facets here at the IEC continues, with the President still here. And as I said, we do expect him to address the media shortly. We'll try and bring you that briefing as soon as it gets underway. Well, this local government election has been described as one of the most important elections in the country to date. It's seen records on a number of fronts. The Independent Electoral Commission says there's a 65% increase in the number of parties contesting since 2011. Some 61,000 candidates are vying for your cross next to the face on the ballot paper. Well, here's a look at how local government elections work for voters and what they should be expecting.
What do you want from your local government?
Daar's baie mense wat geen slaapplek het nie. Daar's genoeg grond. Maak dit beskikbaar aan ons gemeenskap. Dis nie nodig dat van ons mense en so aan moet in hokke slaap nie. As hulle kommunikeer saam met die gemeenskap, sal daar 'n oplossing kom vir dat.
Dit gaan alles oor diensneming wat 'n werklikheid moet word in die gemeenskappe in, want die afgelope paar jare nou al sien ek niks verandering. Daar's verskillende klomp plekke waar nog steeds grondpaaie is in die rural areas, om so te sê. Daar is verskriklike lewenskondisies wat die mense in nog moet lewe. Hokke en sulke goed. Daar is nie eens behuising vir sekere mense nie, en ja, hoekom moet die mense dan in sulke turmoil tye nog in lewe?
Some areas where there are informal settlement, there is no running water, no toilets, no electricity, and even the roads in some areas are terrible.
Hulle moet in alle tye hulle se samewerking gee, of dit nou stemtyd is en of dit nou nie stemtyd is nie. Hulle moet nie net stemtye hier na ons toe kom nie. Hulle moet en hulle sal goed wat hulle gesê hulle sal doen, moet hulle asseblief dit ook doen.
By law, the role of municipal governments, be it metros, district or local municipalities, is to provide you with a number of basic services. These range from water to electricity to infrastructure. Local government also has a critical role to play in the provision of housing. The people citizens turn to for these services are the councillors, the people you vote for to become the political figures who oversee the administration of local government.
People's real interaction with government is through local government, is through their councillor, because they don't have a person that they can turn to in the provincial legislature or the national legislature. They're only elected on a list system. And here you have actual councillor in a ward that you can ask to account what they are doing for you within the scope of what municipalities must do.
Compared to national and provincial governments, municipalities are unique.
And it's because, ideally, because they are geographically bound, they should be more accessible to people, and citizens should be able to access government services more directly, and to be able to point out instances in which services aren't being rendered more immediately, and get a more immediate response from municipalities versus national and provincial departments.
Another role of a municipality is to promote social and economic development. Every election year, job creation is at the very top of everyone's wish list. The country's high unemployment rate is a sore point for many.
Anti-stem, volgende maand.
Stem? Ek het nie meer lus vir.
All right, well, all eyes are on the President just a few meters away from us here at the IEC, so let's go to him now to hear what he has to say.
No, maybe he can say something.
President Jacob Zuma there, leaving the IEC now. As we said earlier, he was in an inspection tour of the place, and I think briefly, just speaking to the media, of course, an audio feed wasn't clear enough for us to pick up what he had to say.
Yeah, but I think he is, as we said, just a few meters away, just walking around getting his final tour of the IEC.
All right, we go to a break now. When we come back, more election coverage.
Now, this is Trends, of course, your one-stop serving of all that's juicy and trending in the world of entertainment and showbiz. My name, of course, is Refill Wemwilo. I'm Dr. Sello Mutaung, and this is our talk.
A very good morning and welcome to Media Monitor. I'm your host, Alicia Jolly.
My name is Dumila Matters.
My name is Mpo. What time is it? It's question time.
For your daily dose of current affairs, tune in to the SABC News Channel.
Africa is growing. As a result, it's also advancing the way it does things.
Any developments in technology can really do a lot to boost growth.
On Network, we'll show you how technology is improving the lives of Africans.
The life of an LED globe is 15 times longer than what they have currently.
We also have new gadgets, games, and the continent's innovative technology ideas. That's Network with me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 19:30 Central African Time.
Good afternoon from our studios here in Johannesburg. I'm Nompumelelo Siziba. Continuing with election news. Earlier today, former President Thabo Mbeki said he was unable to campaign for the ANC because of international work commitments. Mbeki was speaking to the media at his home in Johannesburg after meeting with the ANC's mayoral candidate for the city's metro, Parkstown.
Wandering around the continent quite a bit. Even now, last week I was in Tanzania, I wasn't here. No, I think that the campaign is quite in capable hands.
Meanwhile, Parkstown was upbeat about the elections.
I'm confident of victory. We're going into these elections at the back of a lot of work that's been done by the city of Johannesburg, and I think that the people would judge us on the basis of the work that we've done.
Acting National Police Commissioner Khomotso Pahlani says arrested Vuwani residents will face charges under the Electoral Act. Vuwani in Limpopo has been under lockdown since May over a municipal demarcation dispute. Some residents were arrested in a swoop earlier yesterday, but police initially would not disclose the charges against them. Pahlani says the charges under the Electoral Act relate to intimidation. IEC officials have been forced to set up their voting stations outside some designated venues in Vuwani as they've been locked out of schools and municipal offices. The gates have been locked since the beginning of a service shutdown as part of a prolonged demarcation protest in the troubled area. Opponents of a new municipality have also called for a boycott of tomorrow's vote. Special voting was due to start in Vuwani today after it was postponed yesterday. Tomorrow, voters go to the polls to decide who will govern the Nelson Mandela Bay Metropolitan Municipality in the Eastern Cape. The metro, which is made up of Port Elizabeth, Dispatch and Uitenhage, has been the battleground for political parties in the past few months. The ANC has been fighting hard to retain this metro, while opposition parties have made it clear they want it.
Political party heavyweights spend so much time here they could almost call it home. The parties descended on the bay, attempting to woo voters. The frontrunners, the ANC and the DA, are both confident they have what it takes to win the metro outright.
Yes, I think you are likely to have an outright winner. I think the ANC from the very beginning realized that they needed to invest a lot of resources in this region. From the moment they disbanded the old REC and appointed Danny Jordan, because the previous mayor, Ben Fischler, was not quite energetic. I mean, he was an old fellow, very dedicated to the ANC, but not quite as energetic and sharp as he used to be. So bringing in Danny Jordan, someone of his profile, who was the CEO of the World Cup 2010, very credible person.
The DA has also put together a strong campaign as to why they should govern.
The DA, on the other hand, I think they've been running a slick campaign. They've been visible. Arthur Trollip has its own advantages and perhaps disadvantages. It's magnificent listening to him speak. There's something interesting about a white person speaking fluent Xhosa. He's easy to listen to. At some level, you see beyond the whiteness. You don't see the whiteness, in fact. Because he speaks very fluent Xhosa, more like a rural person with rural gestures and all that stuff. So he's easily likable. But I suppose he hasn't fashioned a strong team. I don't think that DA is as strong in this election as it was in 2011.
After surprisingly clinching Ward 13 by-elections, beating the DA and the ANC, the UDM threw its name into the hat to contest Nelson Mandela Bay. The party currently has 2 seats on the 120-seat council. The EFF is also part of the political landscape and will participate for the first time in local government elections. Then, just to make it a little more exciting, add to the mix the Labour-backed New Kids on the Block, the United Front. Here in Nelson Mandela Bay, commentators believe the key to victory lies in the coloured vote. Previously, this vote was split, with the DA winning the majority of wards in the northern areas. But the area has seen significant political movements during the past few months, and a number of DA councillors in the area have defected to the ANC. The IEC has indicated that it's all systems go for the elections. 52 hotspots have been identified throughout the province. Nelson Mandela Bay is one of these hotspots. The IEC has deployed extra personnel to all of these areas. Janine Lee, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
As South Africa celebrates 60 years since the 1956 Women's March to Pretoria, the 2016 local government elections will be another yardstick of inroads made by women in politics. Party parity lists have brought about the most change, but independent candidates remain largely male. Limpopo is leading with 43% females, and KwaZulu-Natal is lowest with 34%.
Opened in 1913, the Women's Memorial in Bloemfontein pays tribute to women and children who died during the Anglo-Boer War of the 19th century. Born in 1937, Nkgono Musile Motlokwane was 19 years old in 1956 when she was called to march to Pretoria to demand that the apartheid government abolish the pass for black people. Today, any of these women can be your next councillor.
We didn't want those passes. Those passes were for cows.
Gender is more closely achieved on party PR lists, where the gender ratio is 52 men to 48 women. When it comes to ward candidates, the picture is different, with 66% men versus 34% women. Of the 831 independent candidates, 86% are men and only 14% are women. The province with the highest percentage of women candidates is Limpopo province at 43%, and the province with the lowest percentage of women candidates is KwaZulu-Natal with 34%.
That women have an advocacy role in government, local government, regarding issues like children, the welfare of children, care of the elderly and domestic violence.
Liberia was the first African country to have a woman president. South Africa has had a woman deputy president in Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka. And these local government elections are another measure of how South Africans trust women in positions of leadership and politics. Ntakwana Ngatani, SABC News, Bloemfontein.
Usisiwe Jamsana, SABC News, Alice.
Mzwandile Mbeje, SABC News, Doha, Qatar.
Kunatibingwa SABC News, Alice.
Diabo Seto, SABC News, Geneva, Switzerland.
Nampumela Losiziba, SABC News, Moscow, Russia.
Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.
Craig Murray, SABC News, Stellenbosch.
We bring the news back home. We keep the nation fully informed.
SABC contributing editor Vuyo Mvoko's case against the public broadcaster has again hit a snag at the South Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg. His urgent court interdict has again been postponed to Thursday, this as the court had many cases on its roll. Mvoko is challenging his dismissal by the public broadcaster. He's not been featured on any of the SABC News platforms since publishing an opinion piece detailing the state of affairs at the SABC. Mvoko now wants the High Court to set the decision aside. He was among 7 other journalists who were dismissed by the SABC after criticizing its editorial decision not to broadcast violent protests. The other journalists have all since been reinstated. 19-year-old Zephany Nurse, kidnapped as a baby, testified in camera today. The Western Cape High Court is hearing mitigation and aggravation arguments before sentencing. The woman who snatched her has been found guilty. The courtroom cleared to allow Zephany Nurse to testify. The testimony is sensitive given the nature of the case. She has to testify in the case of the woman who raised her and who she considered her biological mother. Details of that testimony cannot be broadcast or published. The woman, a 52-year-old Lavender Hill resident, was convicted on 3 charges. She was found guilty of kidnapping, fraud and contravening the Children's Act. Zephany's biological father, Morn Nurse, says he cannot forgive the woman until she tells the truth. He told the court today that relations with his daughter are strained and he hopes to fix this. The case has been postponed to Thursday when the investigating officer will take the stand. The woman remains in custody. In international news, Typhoon Nida has swept through Hong Kong, shutting down most of the financial hub with gale force winds and disrupting hundreds of flights. This came after Hong Kong's first major typhoon this year brought strong winds following landfall in China's Guangdong province. More than 150 flights have been cancelled. The airport authority has said that none of their flights would be operating until later this afternoon. Hundreds of passengers have been stranded at the airport and 290 flights delayed. Low-lying areas were also put on flood alert. Some people found their livelihoods were also affected. Nida is moving gradually to the inland areas of Guangdong, and winds near its centre are showing signs of weakening, according to the Hong Kong Observatory. The morning trading session at the Hong Kong Stock Exchange has also been suspended. Prosecutors in Peru are investigating a possible case of police killings. The police are alleged to be involved in the killing of dozens of people in a scheme to earn promotions and rewards from superiors by appearing to stop dangerous criminals. The inquiry was opened earlier this year after the Interior Ministry sent public prosecutors a report on the potential criminal ring that involves dozens of police officers and killings between 2012 and 2015. Prosecutors suspect the officers ordered undercover informants to set up kidnappings and robberies with suspected criminals. The case puts more pressure on the country's president, who took office last week, Thursday, to reform a police force widely viewed as corrupt. U.S. police have been led on a high-speed car chase that ended in the arrest of a woman in Southern California. The red sedan sped across highways at high speeds and ran through multiple red lights at major intersections as police pursued. In a neighborhood in Escondido, police tried to block the vehicle, damaging its bumper, but the driver kept going, dragging the bumper behind. When the car finally stopped, police surrounded it with guns drawn. A woman was taken from the car and handcuffed. It's not yet known why the woman was fleeing the police.
They'll be able to bring this to a close.
As the strike by Sepoawu members continues in the fuel industry, the retail price of petrol in South Africa will decrease by 7.4% from midnight tonight. And the price of wholesale diesel will go down by 6.3%. The price of petrol will fall by 99 cents to 12 rand 35 cents a litre in the country's commercial hub, Gauteng. Diesel will dip by 74 cents to 10 rand 97 cents a litre. The long-awaited drop in the fuel price comes after a decrease in international oil prices and a strengthening of the rand against the dollar. Let's take a look at the markets. And finally, toy maker Lego has developed a large model of Rio de Janeiro to celebrate its hosting of the 2016 Olympic Games. The model is the largest ever made for Latin America by the group. It took 50 Lego builders some 2,500 hours to create the masterpiece. Just under 1 million colourful plastic blocks were used to create 25 popular landmarks in the city. These include the Olympic rings, stadiums and iconic sites. Lego, in partnership with the Danish government, created the model as a legacy gift to Rio de Janeiro. Well, that's all from us. There'll be more news at the top of the hour. Do take care.
You the elections manifestos.
We have taken you on the campaign trails, the rallies and the door-to-door campaigns, and we caught the tension on tape.
And even the drama when internal battles spilled into the public eye.
The Sicilian Pilgrim, guys. Authentic Sicilian pizzas. We don't want to replicate or duplicate anything that's happening in Melville. We want to give something new to Melville that isn't already here.
We're trying to work on the design. They change every week, but that's just the nature of you know, design and clothes. And you know, we've got people over there that they sell any kind of thing. They're a bit more sporadic than, let's say, the food stalls. But the food stalls, we've got everything here from Mexican to Serbian food to Indian food to Thai food to sushi to African food, pizzas, dim sum. The list goes on. And they are always here, every single week.
27 Boxes is an art hub mall that is situated in the heart of Melville and gives the community a place to hang out and grab a bite to push start the fun part of the week.
So we're doing Mexican, right? So what we do is we do tacos, we do nachos, we do enchiladas, we do chili poppers as well. And we do 3 types of tacos. We do a beef fillet, we do a chicarita, and we do a chili con carne, which is your Mexican mince and beans, and that's our spicy one. And that one, we call it the carnage because that's our hot one. And that's the one that people love, and it's my favorite as well.
Curry in a Box is we sell authentic Indian food. We are the best in Joburg. We sell the best curries, so please, you guys have to try some. And yeah, we just, it's a blend of spices, a dash of love.
We do Thai food, like a spring roll, samosa. That side is going to be tempura prawn, chicken satay, mani bag. Over there we have red curries, with rice or with noodle.
We're serving fusion sushi. Fusion sushi. It's not like a normal sushi, and we basically use a different style of sauce, and we deep fry the whole sushi, so it gives sushi different flavors. So it's quite nice. You can find over many different flavors. Our top seller is the dish called 4x4, which is 4 pieces of rainbow reloaded. It's a rainbow roll, salmon inside and salmon on top with our special sweet sauce and sashimi oil 7 spicy spring onion. The other 4 pieces is salmon California around the bottom with 4 fried prawns on top with spicy mayo and sweet sauce. Very tasty and everyone love it.
In this very short time that we've been operating, we've got a great response. People ask this question, where are you? Do you do catering? Where do you have a restaurant? So we're very busy now working on a pop-up restaurant that we hope to open at the end of March that we would love to invite you to.
You guys must come and try some delicious African food.
Pilgrim's Pizza is Joburg's original and only authentic Neapolitan pop-up pizzeria. Which means we're selling Neapolitan pizza, highly from the region of Naples, Italy. It's a little bit different to your normal pizza, which is a Roman pizza. Roman pizza is flat and doesn't have the crust that Neapolitan pizza has. Pizza I gave you, you could see that it has that nice, beautiful crust on it. I see you making those eyes of love with those black dots on it. Those black dots are called the leopard effect. That happens from a slow fermentation. I can't tell you how long, it's a secret, but the dough stays quite a while in the fridge. So when it comes out and hits a high heat of 450 degrees plus, it causes those dots because all the gases are released from the dough from the yeast in the fermentation process. Well, I like to keep it classic. The margarita is my favorite. It's the original pizza that hails from Naples. But I like the hay pesto also. That is my twist that I'm trying to put on pizzas here. I like to use ingredients that speak for themselves, and I don't like to clutter them with fluff and static. I just like them to be what they are for who, what, and what they are.
Is it the first time being here?
First time.
And so far, how are you feeling?
Really good.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
What are you having?
This is a bubble tea. It's, green tea with pomegranate bubbles. It tastes delicious.
Some organic thing.
Some organic, but it's good.
And now, what are you
Now
guys
we're having
buying?
curry.
Lamb curry?
Chicken biryani. Lamb curry.
If you're interested in a chilled evening on a Wednesday, then the night market at 27 Boxes is the place to be.
I think the vibe is very different like other markets, and the location as well. You see there's many restaurants on there, and there's a residential area, so there's a lot of people who are popping the markets, you know. So there's a big potential.
So far it's okay. The place is nice market.